See new relations and some young adult.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to our daily gun show. Come to you live every weeknight at midnight Eastern, and we talk about guns for an hour. So this is episode 1200 and something already. We've been doing the show every weeknight since 2016. So we've been doing this for quite a while, and the format has changed over the years. And right now it's an open format. So unlike some of those cowards that run shows during the daytimes, that keep their links to themselves and they're highly scripted. They're all heavily sponsored. They've got an agenda. They're manipulating you. They call it programming for a reason. We're different than that. We're a conversation. So we throw a link out there. I encourage you to join. We use this Canadian powered software. It's rusty. Don't touch anything. Get your tetanus shots, but it's free. And it lets us bring people in here 6 at a time. And we can click on stuff like this. Otherwise, we'd be using guntube.org. So R4 is out there. I don't know if I asked you before, but what's going on with this logo? It looks to me like a unit insignia or something. Anyway, so there's R4 said somewhere, or they said somewhere. Hey, I come to this for the first time, so welcome. So then G23 jumped in and Barbecue jumped in this evening. There's a link out there. Like say, unlike some of the shows that are too afraid to drop links because they're afraid of real conversation, we drop links because that's what we're here for. So there's no script and there's no topics other than we're not talking about whatever the news of the day is. We're not here to be puppets of the media and to just immediately do whatever they decide is the news of the day. We're here to talk about guns. So anyway, thanks for jumping in, guys. Got anything to chat about?
So, well, I can get my phone to stay in my hand. You asked how I got Chris Cheng to agree to jump on my panel earlier, and all I did was emailed him.
Hold on, let's not assume nothing. So for people that haven't, who don't know who G23 is, what are you talking about? You got some kind of show? What first time you ever doing a show tomorrow?
I do a chat every Saturday evening, live stream over on my G23 channel, and would like to see everyone there.
Right on. So you've been doing that for like a long time now. How long have you been doing that for?
Tomorrow will be episode 34 of the Saturday evening chats, and then the very first one was with Seven Wonders and Kingpin on Getting to Know Me.
I know. Well, even through that horrible, traumatic introduction to live chatting, you still kick through it, so that's good. And yeah, so then now that we're up to speed, so yeah, Chris is from Top Shot and whatnot. What episode or season 4?
Yeah, season 4 winner.
And then yeah, so how did you end up getting Chris on?
So he was on Sandhill Shooters channel, and I just asked him, I was like, hey, would you be interested in being a panelist on a small channel? And he's like, hey, shoot me a link or shoot me an email. And so I sent him an email and we talked back and forth, and he agreed to jump on the panel. So that's how it went down.
So what you got everything? Oh, go ahead.
Was that this past Saturday?
No, the one will be tomorrow with Chris Chang. He'll be on tomorrow evening.
Oh, okay.
But when I did the email and everything, him and I have been communicating back and forth, trying to hammer out a date for maybe like about a month and a half now.
Anyway, so then you got like stuff to talk about, or are you just gonna let them chat? Because imagine, I don't know. I can't. I'm assuming most of the time, people will go like, "Hey, we got the guy on. Okay, now tell us about yourself, or tell us about." I mean, is he in like an organization or something right now?
I know he's doing a lot of the competition shooting, and he was part of the 2A rallies. So I'm gonna kind of talk to him and ask him some questions about uh, what he did in the 2A rally, kind of, and what he can see happening with the 2A if other things happen in the political world.
I think he's doing stuff with Pink Pistols as well.
Do they do stuff?
Yeah, they do a little bit of stuff. I mean, I know they're always up at the Washington rallies. I don't. It's pretty much the only time I've ever really heard of them.
Yeah, I don't know much about it other than I knew about them, and whenever I first started paying attention to 2A stuff, I was like, dang, they've been around since 2000. So at the time when I started paying attention, it was pretty much when 2015, when a whole bunch of the modern groups like were basically just getting started, and then most everything recently has been since 2015. So back then, there was like a pretty big gap between the 70s and the 90s, and then there's just like trickle of stuff, and then the big wave of it hit in like 2015 basically. So actually that'd be interesting to figure out why. Probably because of Obama. But whenever I started looking into it, it was again, I was like, wow, look at most of these organizations happened basically right after 1968, or within 10 years after 1968 ish. And then, like I say, then there's just a couple of them, probably in the 90s after the assault weapons ban and different infringements back then. And that's when I was like, um, I just noticed that it was like that. All right, well, so any other topics tonight? We got people out there. Well, no, we don't. We have a couple of people out there, or else it's just us. Maybe everybody left. Imagine we're being corked right now. I don't know if there's big news or whatever to be complaining about or what, but if we got topics, we'll talk and we'll see if anybody shows up. I just started this show maybe, just a couple of minutes before it went live. So there wasn't like a lot of opportunity for announcements or alerts to go out there. See, sometimes Fridays can be pretty awesome shows. Sometimes they can, sometimes they can be pretty awesome. So I'll leave it run for a little while here, but I want to leave it on you guys. But we do got 3 people in here. If you got something to talk about.
I don't know if I missed it because I jumped in a little bit late here, but did you give us an update on van status?
Well, I mean, I got the brakes today, but
What, didn't have the opportunity to assemble them or anything?
no, no, not.
Okay.
When they got here and stuff, it was hours before it got dark out.
Well, I'm glad everything arrived. So are you going to be working on van this weekend and hoping to depart before first of the week, or what do you think?
Again, we talked about this yesterday. I can't do nothing. Number one, the campaign was for $3,500 and it brought in 18. So there's big difference there. And that was all the gas and everything. So definitely getting the van ready and stuff, but then I'll have a ready van. I didn't complete a campaign, so there's not going to be like a long tour. I mean, I don't have gas and I can't leave for a month during November, which is the only time of the year when people willingly spend money. If I go out and drive around on my credit card, that's not business. That's just, I don't know what that is, but that's definitely not business. So I can't afford to just go on the road early next week. I haven't even, I mean, the campaign ended on Wednesday. It usually takes a week before they process funds and then they send it out to be distributed. So, I mean, it's just not, I would have jumped on credit cards and got to Tulsa as, I mean, not an emergency, but, I would have done that in order to experience the show, but that would have been more than reckless financially. And no, so I have no idea. I'm going to change the brakes when I can, but again, I don't live next to an auto zone or something. So as soon as I take the front end of my van apart, I'm at either some Uber's whim or my friends and stuff. So like I say, I'll be able to do that when I can coordinate everything and.
Right on. I just remember that you had mentioned the possibility of a mobile mechanic, and that show's conclusion last night. It was no show, or show. So I wasn't sure, and
Yeah, right.
I've just wakened up, so I haven't been able to parse through any other communications on the day or updates.
No, we
But
got all kinds of stuff came in the mail today, so there's that, and then, well, just other stuff had to be done today. So,
so will that maybe be mail order Monday opening, or did you already take out the packing list and double check everything?
Wait, what? Are we talking about the brakes?
Yeah.
I did not have a chance to go in and take them apart, mainly because I wouldn't even know what is in there. I mean, I wouldn't even know what's in there. I don't know what was supposed to be in the brake kit, and I don't know what is in, what gets changed. That's one of the reasons why I don't just feel like, well, I can't jack it up anyway. I don't own a jack. I have to borrow a jack off of somebody that can lift up a 1-ton van. But I didn't, just come home and open up the brakes because I don't know what I'm missing in there or what I have in there. And then, like I say, I'm at an Uber. I have to get an Uber or take the bus or something to go get parts, unless I can coordinate something. So, no, I didn't take it apart. I didn't want a bunch of empty boxes. They're just sitting in the van right now. They're heavy as hell, actually. So they're just waiting until I can start the project and then I'll open them. But now I didn't see any point in opening up boxes of brake parts. And there's no need to look at spark plugs. I don't need to see those. But no, I didn't have any interest. I had others. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff came in the mail today for other projects and stuff.
Cool.
Yep. So yeah, I mean that's just boring. So no, that's why. And this is daily gun show, not necessarily the van chat. I'll definitely dig into that stuff in a van chat, and if anybody wants to talk about nuts and bolts of doing projects and stuff. But yeah, that's why I put $35 on that project because I'm not independently wealthy where I can just jump in the van and take a trip or whatever. And then half of that $35 was potentially renting, so I didn't have to do the van either. But when they canceled the show, that, like I say, took that pin out of the thing. So now I can potentially schedule when there's something, maybe a real gun show, like a regular gun show or some other event. Who heard about this Big Daddy event? I started seeing pictures from that all around.
Is that one that's supposed to be happening down in Georgia?
I have no idea. Somebody said something about Georgia in Gizzard show, so I guess so. Like I said,
I heard it's supposed to just basically be guys from the Leviathan group or something. That's all I really know about it.
That makes sense.
What's that?
That makes sense.
Who's Leviathan group?
So basically, I mean, I don't know exactly, but it's basically like when they're making movies or TV and they'll have like expert come on. So back in the day, I think they just had armors on people that owned guns or, put up a shingle and said, I'll bring guns to your movie set or whatever. And then at some point they figured we got our choice of people to rent guns from. Now we're going to go to somebody, or if we want, we'll go to somebody who knows something about the guns, like can tell us how to not look like idiots or something like that. So I don't know if somebody watches more TV and movies than I do. Like at some point, TV and movies started getting better, like gun handling and I don't know, like perception or whatever, like awareness of guns. At least there was some effort. I don't know if it was Heat or if it was Way of the Gun. There was like a couple of movies back in the day where they started to show that, and then I think they probably figured out that like they got to watch the comments and the whatever reviews of their movies, and when they start figuring out that people really appreciate a movie that isn't idiots about their guns, then they started to appreciate that and pay for that. So what happens then is a bunch of people from the military saw that that was something that Hollywood wanted, that they appreciated, and the people that had been doing it really didn't know what they were doing. They were just better than somebody who shows up and says, here's guns, right? And then like, hey, don't shoot each other. Like, so at the beginning it was like, here's guns, don't, here's be safe. Like, here's some things to do to be safe. And then it was, oh no, hold them like this or hold them like that or wear them like this or wear them like that so you'll look cool. And then, like say, then real life people came in and said, well, that might look good, but that's not the way it really does done. And this is the way it's really done. And this looks cool. And then you see some movies where that's going on and, people that are actually X something like X people that did stuff will come in and either play roles or be experts and stuff. So basically, that's from what I understand, that's like the evolution of, gun handling or whatever you want to call that, like gun wrangling in movies. And then that's where Leviathan comes in. They were like, oh, okay, so there's this whole thing established. That's kind of when they stepped on the scene, when it evolved to that point. And they're like, oh, well, now that everybody's done all the work, let's just come in and do it with a flash. Let's just get a bunch of people who know how to work all the digital versions of all this stuff that these old people do, that figured it all out, that, they do everything with lenses and film and stuff, and they're struggling with digital. Why don't we just do digital? Or why don't we come in and step in and do, digital easily? And then we are the people that just went and did stuff. So I think that's what happened is they kind of stepped in there and figured out, oh, this is super easy. We already know, like we went and did stuff. So we know that side of it. And I don't know, watch YouTube videos or went to school, learn how to do video editing. So we know that side of it now. And instead of working with the old school, they just took over. And then at some point, from what I understand, they were like, oh, okay, movies and stuff is neat, but video games are better. So they went to video games because that has more money. And then I don't know why, but they went to YouTube then too. Maybe because it's easier to take a bunch of YouTube people and get them to do stuff for a nickel than it is to get somebody who was used to doing video game stuff for $1. But I have no idea. But anyway, so that's where they stepped in and sort of, I don't know what to call them. They're agents, I guess, between, I don't know, like product placement or some kind of sponsorship or that kind of thing. Like, hey, we want some YouTube celebrity to sell our XYZ, and some YouTube celebrities like, man, I need some money. So what the hell XYZ can I hawk? And then that group comes in there and goes, hey, here you go. Hold it like this. And you hold this guy's stuff and you do this and you do that because that's the best match, I think. And they have a cool octopus that they put on stuff.
So what's the connection to Big Daddy, or is that just a name and it has no association with Big Daddy Unlimited? Because that's something that a bunch of gun tubers, or at least, what is it? I can't remember the name of their channel. The guys who do a daily thing, and it's like sort of a news magazine, but really abbreviated, where they hit news stuff, and they have several different correspondents. John, somebody, the guy with the beard.
Is that Hank Strange?
Mm,
You're not talking about TGC, are you?
that's it. TGC, that guy.
Oh, that's chaos. Oh. All right, so
No,
huh?
no right idea. Just wondering if this Big Daddy had anything to do with Big Daddy Unlimited, because I think Big Daddy Unlimited is in Florida, and if this shoot is in Georgia with Leviathan, it seems rather
No,
coincidental.
it's definitely Big Daddy Unlimited. That's the thing that everybody's been posting or whatever. I didn't know it was those
Okay.
guys. Yeah, we don't have to talk about it then. That's just a sponsored event. Whatever. A bunch of people come out and get paid to stand there and look at stuff that a bunch of people bring out and pay to have people look at.
Got it.
That we've had those for a while. It started out with back in the day, it would be writers, and you'd get SHOT Show or whatever, as an industry thing, and you'd get media showing up at the industry thing, and there's different opinions on that, and you talk to 60,000 attendees and however many people set up, vendors at SHOT Show, everybody's gonna have a different opinion probably of the whole thing. And if you talk to them 3 different years, they're gonna have 3 different opinions too. And it probably depends on if they're successful or not, or if they're having a good mood or not. But certainly the what was I getting at? That SHOT Show, brings shit, I don't know where that was going. Starting to read stuff over here. I guess I'll close this.
So forgetting about the Big Daddy event or whatever, anybody have any local or regional gun shows in the absence of Wanamaker? There are none that I am aware of in Nebraska or commutable Iowa for me.
We got a bunch of them here popping up. So I don't know what they're going to be like or what, but yeah, quite a few. And I noticed, where did I notice some others? I seen some popping up in Texas. I think in Texas I saw some post about them.
What about you, Barbecue? Seems like Pennsylvania. I'm not sure which corner that you're, which quadrant you're in, but shouldn't Penn be having a bunch of shows?
Oh, we're supposed to have the outdoor show, but I heard that is either canceled or most likely going to be canceled. All the gun shows that I typically know about in my area, I haven't heard anything about yet this year. There's normally a pretty good sized one up at the Bayfront Convention Center in Erie in the middle of January. But again, I haven't heard anything about that one either. So everything's pretty sparse, it seems, at the moment.
I know over here in Oregon, we haven't had any gun shows since January or February. And
oh my God.
Yeah, they've pretty much been dead. We were gonna have a big one, and Paul Harrell was gonna be out doing like meet and greets and talking and signing autographs. But then the Rona hit. That one got canceled, and that was like the last one I've heard of.
So is that like maybe a public health issue or a failure to issue permit from localities? Do you have any idea on that?
Well, they canceled that one that Paul was going to be at. That was when the Rona first hit, and like everything got locked down and everything. So they just kind of canceled everything. And pretty much the governor here, she's, well, a tyrant. At least she never tried going after any of the gun stores or anything. So they've all stayed open and everything. But there's pretty much no gatherings at all of anybody, like anything over 100 people. It's pretty much like max that's even being able to be allowed. but she just put in a freeze order to like stop everything.
Wow, that is a hyper restrictive thing, and I have to profess not knowing anything about Oregon gun shows, but yeah, that's some pretty dictatorial, totalitarian bullshit. Um, I was wondering, and you know, everybody else kick in what you think. Wouldn't it be probably a pretty good idea right now for, say, gun shops or ranges to have a parking lot event, a lot like, say, a swap meet kind of thing? I think that that could be very, very successful and conducive. You know, it's not so much based on the weather for all of us above the, the central latitude here, but would that work, say, in Arizona, G?
Well, that's what they're doing to the one is having them outside.
What about the idea of having, say, a range host a parking lot swap meet? I mean, that's something that could probably be started up as a local interest, if any of us could find a host. I just know it's prohibitive here in Nebraska because we could expect snow from mid-October on, and we've been in the daytime 30s now and below freezing for more than a week. So not a lot of folks are going to want to set up outside for that, but maybe in the warmer states.
Yeah, we have that same issue here in PA with the whole snow and cold thing. But even still, if it was just going to be an individual shop that said, "Hey, let's try and drum up more business for ourselves," and invite other shops to our lot. The problem is most of the shops around here, they don't have a big enough parking lot to do anything like that. So like you said, you have to go to a range or something. Then most of the ranges, at least in my area that I can think of off the top of my head, they don't have the parking to accommodate something like that still. So you'd have to find some sort of outdoor park that is made to just have that massive gathering. I think that is one thing that would be a bit hindering of it. Plus, I think another thing, as far as a local shop saying, "Hey, we're going to do this to drum up more business," going to my local shops right now, the couple that I go to on a regular basis walked into each of those this past month. "Hey, how's it going?" And they're like, "Busy." I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Way too busy." I was like, "Well, it's not a bad thing to have happening." He's like, "I suppose not, but they've got plenty of business as it is right now, so I don't think there's much incentive for them to do something like that."
So
Yeah, I
that's
guess that's why I used the analogy of a swap meet, because that would be everybody and their dog with the opportunity to, grab a table for $20 and throw their excess on and wander around and, do trades and stuff with. I was just thinking, of course, that a commercial property would be the best place to host. And like in the summer, spring and summer, here in Omaha, we have a ton of fundraisers that are held in, say, the one half of shopping plaza or mega grocery store parking lots, because those that are multi-use, say there's a big grocery store, and then there'll be like a Burger King in on that corner. Places, high schools, and churches, and well, not churches so much, I guess, because they have their own properties, but kids will set up car washes, and they'll have kids out on the street with signs, car wash $10, and whatever their group or club is their fundraiser. So they do that. They are able to use that property for little or no money. So I'm just, with people not going in mass, to stores as they were, there should be plenty of space to be able to pull off that kind of thing. And if there's gun shop participation, that's even better, but I don't think it's necessary. I think getting the word out would be the biggest issue. But if we were able to use local retailers as places to post signs and things like that, it's getting a little too.
So you're talking about, hey, let's all get a bunch of people together to not buy anything from our stores, instead to just shuffle things around between themselves and not making a cut or nothing. So
I've never met a gun store that was opposed to posting a sign for a gun show, though. And this is essentially the same thing. Not asking them to vend. Of course, they can participate, but everybody that I know that works in shops, yeah, they're busy from open to close, and then they're doing all their attendant paperwork until well into the late evening. So no, I'm not saying people should give away shit for free, or that people should just, accept that there's another retail opportunity.
No, but I'm saying hosting it in the parking lot of a mall or something. That's all those stores are going to be like, oh, bring a bunch of people here that aren't here to shop. So Christmas time, or like Toys for Tots, that's charity or something that's different. Like a car wash, yeah, come do the car wash, because then you might shop here, right? But if you're like, hey, come here and do a swap meet, I think the reason we don't see that is because that's not conducive to them, like I say, shopping then right away. Maybe swap meet in a grocery store parking lot you might see, because you're not swap meeting cantaloupes and stuff. But then on the range or whatever, I'd just say, lack of any kind of facilities, usually any kind of bathrooms or electricity or like any kind of kitchen or anything like that, would be probably the reason we don't see that kind of stuff happen too often. But yeah, I think
and food trucks.
One of the problems we've got is getting people together, period. Like to get together for like a Veterans Day parade or Thanksgiving parade, I guess, things that are tradition anyway are going to be a challenge. So now we got a not just challenge to get people to do a gun thing, which was already a challenge under standard circumstances, but now under these heightened situations where everybody's like tentative about even gathering, let alone traveling. I think that's why we're not seeing it. Maybe some kind of virtual thing might be a thing, but I don't know if that's just playing into it all either. Something to be said for hosting something like that, even if some number of people show up that isn't as many as it could be or should be or whatever. At least it's going in that direction. The same kind of thing as a 2A rally, maybe. You can't expect everybody to quit going along unless you give them opportunity to do something else, I suppose.
Yeah. I guess my brainstorm is passed then.
You're seeing gun shows though. So, like I say, I don't know. We'll have to see what they are before we can even really explain them or talk about them too much. But there's no need to start thinking about alternative outside stuff if they're actually still having regular gun shows. I don't know if they're abbreviated or modified or what, but they're still going to have shows. Even if the shows stopped having attendance, I can't see anybody going, oh, well, let's do them outside, because if they're having under normal circumstances, gun shows are barely limping along. People do not value gun shows anymore, and gun show promoters don't do stuff at them that brings new life into them or new attendees to them, or at least the attendees, know what to expect, I guess, or whatever. So what you're talking about, though, is what some of the examples of what could be next are, and that's bringing out a whole bunch of people to ranges to have exhibitions and orientation. Well, not orientations, but ability to shoot triggers and pull triggers on stuff, and then purchase and then have other events. Get-togethers and events and other things even added to the list. But those are usually done at ranges that can facilitate all that are used to having multi-day, events that have security and all the rest. Because that's another thing is, why aren't they doing stuff in Oregon? When we first started talking about that, well, maybe because there's all kinds of craziness who wants to bring a bunch of their guns to a tent or, some room somewhere and leave them on a table and hope that some security guard's going to be able to do anything about whatever might happen. So I'm thinking that's, probably some factor is who's going to even attend one of these things. But anyway, so there's some stuff. I think we'll see going forward if everybody just keeps retreating into their shells, or if we start to see some things like where you're talking about, your suggestion, start to happen, because that's how we're gonna. Right, you got to comply and feel out what the boundaries are in order to get a bearing and move forward.
I mean, I like DJ's idea. I mean, because let's say spring rolls around and we're still dealing with this crap, and there's still social distancing, and you got to wear masks and all that. An open air gun show would definitely be a good thing as far as complying with some of those things, mandates, whatever you want to call them. But I think the only, at least like where I am, the only good places to do something like that are going to be like the county fairgrounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the Arizona one's going to be. The one is going to be at the state fairgrounds. Now the one in Tucson isn't. I think it's just at a regular location.
Yeah. The biggest one here in the metro, because we don't have them in Omaha proper, is the former Potawatomi County Fairgrounds, about 15 minutes off the an interstate drive for me. And it's the exhibition halls and show floors are all in Morton buildings, and they have a cantina already there, and they have people who come in. Well, I'll cover the food parts first. There's a popcorn vendor, there's a candy vendor, so people have something to nosh on besides straight up show vendors. Yeah, former county fairground.
Those
And
are like always there, no matter what the event is, or they show up just for the gun show.
They don't really host anything else there anymore, because the 4-H kids and the county fair it's not held there anymore. So this is something that actually a promotions group in Omaha purchased and developed into some of the property there into an outdoor music venue. So this year is the exception, but there are probably 2 to 3 shows a month there. And that's been going on for probably almost a decade now. So they're equipped, and of course, it being just acres and acres and acres of property, there's plenty of parking space. There's the event spaces are already set. The only thing that they do have to drop on site are the porta potties. Just a ton of those, depending on expected attendance. So when you get to the gun show, you come through the regular gates. There's no charge to get in. There's no charge to park. Then you walk through the gated area, pay your $4 or your weekend pass price, and then you just wander from building to building. The advantage that they have there, of course, is that they're not truly limited on space, because I've never seen it all used for anything other than the former county fair gatherings. So main building is about oh geez, I'll have to count one row in my head, 20 by 4. So 400 tables in the main room. No, that's not right. 200 in the main room, at least that many in another building, and then the smallest setup is like overflow and late arrivals and late rentals and stuff like that. So there are usually at least 100, between 100 and 200 vendors total. It's a 3-day with Fridays and Sundays being partial days. Saturdays an all day kind of thing. And they could easily move that to an outside arrangement there. So the last show that we had there was 6 weeks ago, I think, with no more scheduled for this year. But that, that's another thing where, because it's such a large thing, promoters would have to pony up a lot of front end finance and security deposits and the like. But if they scaled that back, by a 10 factor or something like that, I don't see why it wouldn't succeed. So yeah, that's about all I have to observe on that.
Another issue that could be ran into with a gun show at a venue like that is, will they have Wi-Fi or anything, since the 4473s are usually getting processed online now. I mean, granted, gun shops can still call them in if they have to, but the preferred method now is to do them online.
Yeah, almost everybody, all the shows that I've been to, they have Wi-Fi. So that hasn't been an issue. Of course, the strength and availability of the signal, that is oftentimes an issue, but people are also just reverting to phoning them in. And also just using their native cell signal to use their phones for the same purpose. So I saw a lot of that going on at the last West Fair show that I went to about a month ago. But you're right. Availability of Wi-Fi is key for a lot of things. I can't think of very many venues that I've been in, concert, trade show, gun show, or otherwise, that doesn't have it. It's just a matter of how many people are sucking the signal and what effect that has. Indoor, of course, is a little bit different because the event center that we have downtown, the newest one, during a concert, it's damn near impossible to get any signal. So most people just take their pictures, record their stuff, and then go outside to have a cigarette or whatever, and grab some internet upload.
G23 took off.
Night, G23, if you're still listening.
Good night.
I mean, I also like the prospect of a outdoor gun show, just because seems like most of the ones in my area are typically at fire halls, or I guess you could call them convention rooms at hotels, which, I mean, those are small also. But so it's always assholes and elbows when you go into these things. The only one that's decent is that one that I mentioned up in Erie at the convention center. But that's actually a pretty large area that they get to do that one. So there's more room to move around and whatnot. But a lot of the other ones, I mean, if you're coming down an aisle and if there's another person coming up, you're gonna probably scrape butts as you try and squeeze past each other.
Yep. Yeah, I've worked in a couple of hotels, and we have just a ton of them because Omaha hosts the College World Series, among other annual events that are just gargantuan and bring people in from all points in the states. So we have a ton of hotel, and we have a lot of those hotels, as well as casinos just across the river, but the casinos do not host those kind of things. But all those empty ballrooms and meeting centers that are part of hotels that are all over town, they are being woefully underused right now. And when you do the accordion walls, break those down and open up, say, the ones that have triple ballroom spaces, that's as big as an arena floor in a small, like a civic arena for basketball or hockey or whatever. So it's plenty of space. We actually have a building that was the city center called the Civic Auditorium, and that was host to a local hockey team, traveling professional baseball or basketball exhibition, sports, that kind of thing. And that was a really big deal in the 70s and 80s, but it started to wane, and it's been empty for more than a decade now. They've sold off the fixtures and the signage and all that kind of stuff, but the building is still there. The catch is that these big corporations that love to come into communities and build arenas and stadiums and stuff, they've done that through the redevelopment of the near north side of Omaha's riverfront, downtown. And so now we have a huge basketball arena. We have a huge baseball park. And the one that was formerly used for the College World Series, it became an issue for travelers, mostly for parking, because our Henry Dorley Zoo is part of the same complex, just 13 blocks from the river along the interstate. So that's why the new arena was ostensibly why the new arena was built. And of course, we lost all the tradition of our farm team, from the Kansas City Royals for baseball and also for the College World Series. So everybody's still coming. It's just that now we have all of these things that are disused or have been razed to the ground simply to have parking available. So I guess what I'm trying to decry here is corporate intervention rather than civic pride and ownership. And those corporations will simply trade off to another one, or they'll become, they're bought out, they're absorbed, and they become something else. And in places like Kansas City, St. Louis, Minneapolis, even Chicago, to some extent, in my experience, has been that those places last about 10 years, and then they simply build them closer to suburban sprawl, leaving these huge properties, ginormous buildings, to be left derelict. And if anybody has those kind of facilities at their disposal, and I know that I started with hotel ballrooms, but all the way up to those mega places, there's plenty of real estate for it. It's just a matter of matching it up to interest. So I don't know. Anybody else checking in on that? I know I rambled.
I'd like to see stuff develop into something that people going forward can find more interesting or useful or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it would be neat. And then, so let's say that's successful. What's to stop them from doing the same, whatever recipe, and then take out guns and put in motorcycles or computers or movies or Comic Con or, like that? You would think that that could be a kickstart or a catalyst, right, to get other stuff going.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned two things that, one that used to happen at that Civic Center I was talking about was the annual motorcycle show. And so you had show floor for dealerships, but also for entrance to like a custom cycle show. So people would roll their own bikes in and their builds in, and shops would set up, and shit tons of vendors of every sort. And that was another 3-day thing that disappeared when the availability of the venue ended. Comic-Cons are kicking off almost everywhere around the metro. I've been to them in hotel ballrooms. There's another arena in Council Bluffs, just across the river, and they host Comic-Cons, and there have been 2 of those just since midsummer. I didn't make it to the last one, but yeah, another. Those are 3-day events. There's something that's called the Oddities and Something Expo, which is basically for Halloween fans and horror movie fans and the like. So that's much smaller, hosted in a ballroom setting. But those are also 2 or 3-day things. And going back about 20 years to the same Howard Johnson's, there was a local group called Finn's Fish Interests Need Support, and we had our annual auctions there. So that was, people bringing in livestock and aquariums and supplies and all kinds of stuff, and that was a great time. That also provides us the opportunity for anyone with the affinity or interest to simply come and spectate. And when you have an open auction and somebody's selling, electric blue cichlids, and it's only $2, and you got an aquarium at home, you're likely to just grab a bidding number and join in. So if it's participatory rather than just a passive experience where you're just walking around and looking, I think that will motivate a lot of folks. At the show that was hosted in a former Super Target, which is a medium-sized box store, considerably less prolific than Walmart's. That was rented out by a promoter, and it was large enough that they set up indoor archery exhibitions, and they had youth competitions and that kind of thing, and that was always going on. So that was pretty groovy too. And I do think the more you can get people involved in an activity other than spending money and wandering around, then you'll get more folks and maybe expose them to some things that are of a parallel interest. So does anybody do anything like that at the gun shows that you guys go to?
At least not intentionally. I guess barbecue sleeping. All right. Well, so yeah, I don't know. Maybe the future will be some sort of hybrid shows or something. I don't know. Or maybe not only hybrid shows, but potentially hybrid shows or something, or some sort of weird virtual thing.
That'd be trippy.
I don't know, but it probably won't be too long. If you give, or if you make people who can't get together for shows, if you don't, you keep them apart for too long, then they're going to have to come up with something. Because there's definitely people that just sell at gun shows. That's their whole thing. And if they can't get to shows, or people aren't showing up, or the attendance is so low that they need normal attendance to just pay the bills, then portion of attendance only to pay portion of the bills, kind of thing. And usually, when you remove attendance from a show, it's not just like the same number of people come in, fewer of them. It's going to be like what's the word? It's going to be like with wine or some kind of drink that has solids in it. Like as you get to the bottom, it's going to be different than the clear stuff at the top. So when you remove a bunch of people from the show, the people that show up are there for a reason, right? They're either there incorrectly or they're there for something specific. So the chance that you're just going to wander up and buy a shovel or wander up and buy some matches that don't go out in the wind, that's just not going to happen as much if you're going there for this gun and then you leave. And when there's fewer people going to a show, that's what happens is people are there with intent and they're not there to wander. And the people that are there to wander are there to pick the place dry. Like they understand the situation and they're there to clean up the remains. They're not there to foolishly spend full price or buy retail because they don't understand. You require a bunch of people for those for that to happen. And it's not that it's not that anybody's business plan is necessarily to always get retail from everybody, but that once in a while when somebody just comes up and goes, oh, this is exactly what I need, I'll buy it, I'm buying it, I'm not going to haggle. That's when you make your profit and you can afford to have a bad show or to sell stuff to friends or something like that, over time. Anyway, so that kind of stuff affects it. So, doing something virtually or whatever. I don't know if that's going to bring a bunch of people that like going to gun shows like me. I really like going to gun shows, but I don't even know, even if I had a lot of money, would I be spending it at gun shows? I don't know. I like going to the show. I don't like, or that's what I'm saying. Like I'm not just using it as another way to spend a bunch of money, and that's what the shows kind of need. If everybody's there with the intent to make money, if everybody's just there with the intent of hanging out, being doing something else, then that's a different thing, I guess, or a different type of show, maybe. All right, well, so I don't know where we're at. Barbecue, I think, is sleeping, and we've been going for an hour. I don't think we're going to have a big fancy show like we do some weekends. It's like some Fridays. We've been having a bit of a chat here, but I don't know if it ever really got going from the one topic, really.
No, I'm still awake.
So we got people, it says we got 5 people out there. I'm one of them, so that means there's 4. If one of you 2 is out there or both, then that's even fewer. Nobody's chatting, though. The chat we have is from 54. And like I say, I'm not. Okay, so that means there are some other people out there, if the count is right. But I say that because we're not here just to, do some kind of show or to say stuff so that you can go say it again or whatever. I'm not trying to change your mind or be right about nothing. I'm just trying to create a place for us to have a conversation, and that requires people to have a conversation with. So these guys, make them keep dancing. That's what you want, but that's torture for them. Nobody likes having to talk. We're here to talk. But now it says there's 6 people, so we'll see. Tim's out there. I want to thank Tim. He brought something today from the store, if I remember correctly. And barbecue, I think you did right before the show. Thanks for that. All right. Well, like I say, so in the same boat as I was the other night. I've got this other project open that's super distracting because I'm trying to work on it. And it worked great when you guys were talking because then I was over here working. But
okay. Well, let me jump in with a live reveal. I'm not able to see everything that I'm doing, but I have my other phone open, so I'm going to be referring to that screen and switching my camera on.
Hold on. So it's 11:11. Who the hell eats at 11:11 at night? And for him, it's probably 12 o'clock. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, you're opening this live?
Yep.
Oh, snap. We're going to see some guys and girls.
Door number 2. All right. Well, I made sure that
you hold your own phone the other way unless you're a 16-year-old girl and we don't know it.
Am I good here?
No, this is the way a girl would do it. Baby girl, young girl would do it.
Well, damn, dude, I'm not a professional whatever sharer.
There's only 2 ways to hold a phone, the right way and the other way. So hold it the other way. Oh, now he left. He doesn't like being persecuted and called being a little girl. He left. Seems like Ozzy's listening to Holster. Here's what happens. Nobody's out there chatting. It makes Ozzy, a hardworking individual, honest, hardworking individual, have to stop what he's doing to come over. Okay, you're still holding it. Do you realize there's like long ways and there's the other way, right way? You're holding it long ways.
Portrait or landscape?
Hold it like 90 degrees the other way. There you go. Oh, see, his phone's just being belligerent because he just turned it 90 degrees and it's, I don't know what the hell it is. Somehow it's still twerking. Weird.
Is it the duck?
I don't know. How can the duck have anything to do with his phone's gyroscope? You gotta it's probably because you're looking straight down. You gotta look up a little bit and let the gyroscope work, probably.
Yeah, turn the phone vertically and then try and turn it 90 degrees and then look it down.
Look straight down, the gyroscope can't work. So you have to point it like towards the wall or, what would you say, like horizontally? I don't know.
So this is no good right here?
Don't worry about it. I'm still gonna nag at you because you're holding it wrong, but go ahead. At this point, it's too late.
Okay. I can't reverse the camera, so I'm having to. I cannot face it right now. It's inverted and in a vertical rather than a horizontal orientation right now.
Oh, you
And
can
I'm
come up
using my
with this all night long. Later on, when you go look at this show after, you'll see what you did. You'll see what you did. Go ahead. We can technically see what's going on. It's just horrible for people like barbecue who have to squint to see all this business.
Okay,
Okay,
my bad. But I'll just go ahead then. Okay, so I made sure that I got a couple of these, the strippers. One hand this, if I can, so that everybody can see.
Oh, they did come out. They're a pain in the ass to get in there, so they came out actually really easy.
So there's my stripper assemblage, and then I will have my extras of those, and those extras for someone like barbecue, although you could get your own, I might have these to trade to someone. And if you'll remember, I went door number 2, and here is door number 2. Oh my goodness. All right, I got 3 of these. Wow. These are awesome. All right. So now I've got a whole stable of strippers. And also, oh, cool, check that out. And a Corona sticker. Awesome. All right. So it is still before midnight, so Free Patch Friday, I believe, is still in effect. And you too can have your own stable of dancers. Check it out, fellas. Remember, Gear Websites store is at gearwebsites.com, and there's all kinds of groovy stuff, not just patches, but stickers and other goods. You can link out to some awesome t-shirts and support an incredibly worthy cause. 2A for everyone. Well, 2A for all of us. I didn't mean 2A for E.
Right on.
Okay. And then...
Yeah, you're going to hear from Tony's lawyers. Way to go.
So now, see, you left because you talked about Clover. So what's going on with Clover eating so late? Seems like a late. So who eats this late at night? Anybody? Let's show of hands. I try not to eat after 9 because of whatever, digestion or something.
I was talking to my doctor about it once. She told me it doesn't really matter what time you eat. It just matters what the heck you eat when you're eating late.
Now that was the doctor, because you got the deal where what they put a rubber band around your shit.
No, they stapled it into a sleeve, so it's basically like the size of a banana.
So can they unstaple it if later on?
No, it's when they staple that, it basically staples off a whole section where it just dies and goes away. I don't know if they actually pull it out of me during the surgery or if they just kind of let it float around in there and then my body does whatever to it. But
it's basically like a slow motion version of if you let a balloon go without tying it in a knot, except that it's your stomach and it's inside you. But it's basically that what happens.
Yep.
So and it's in slow motion. It takes like a half an hour instead of just happening really fast. So then so that's just how you're going to be eating for a while, forever, basically.
Pretty much.
Okay. So when they were getting ready to talk about all that, that's when a doctor told you it didn't matter what time?
Back when I was first starting on my weight loss journey, I was talking to my PCP, and because I had heard, oh, don't eat after like 5 or something like that. And she had told me, you can eat, even an hour or 2 before bed, but what really matters is what you're eating. If you're gonna take in a shit ton of calories right before bed, well, yeah, that's gonna be bad news. But if you want to sit down and have a small salad or a cup of vegetables or something before bed, you're not taking in that many calories. It's not going to hurt you.
hold on. I've been basically a vegan since 1989. And if somebody came up to me and offered me a small salad before I went to bed, I'd knock them over. Who the hell is going to eat a small salad before they go to bed? I never even could fathom. That'd be like the weirdest. That's like drinking a big cup of coffee or something weird right before you go to bed. But anyway, that's here nor there. I never heard of that. Whenever somebody said something about the 9 o'clock thing, it just seems reasonable to me that if you're going to be laying there, why would you want to put a bunch of stuff in you and make your guts have to do whatever business they got to do? Why not let them shut down, right? For the night?
Yep.
But I don't know. So, and then otherwise, why would breakfast be breaking a fast? If you're going to eat a bunch of salad or whatever before you go to bed, then you're not breaking no fast because you're basically been eating the whole time.
Yeah, and like that's one of the things that my weight loss doctor told me is really they want me to do all my eating within an 8 to 10 hour period and then fast for the next 14 to 16 hours every day.
I got distracted because Clover lashed out at Heavy B. Now, Heavy B is a Marine and he's from California, but is he bad? All right, I don't know. But it's so sorry. You said that you're supposed to eat heavily and then fast for 15 hours?
Well, what they want me to do, which I am fairly decent at it. I mean, I lost almost 85 pounds before the surgery by working on this, but I would have 5 meals a day, but those 5 meals, I shouldn't say 5, there's 3 full meals and 2 snacks in between, the main ones. But they wanted me to do all that eating in an 8-hour period. So if I got up at 8, I was supposed to be done eating by 4 p.m.
Right. Yeah, so that your
they said
body
if I-
has that time to not eat for more of the day, right?
Well, I guess what they're finding is something with the fasting. I don't remember exactly what, but the fasting is a really important part of the weight loss. So getting a 14 to a 16-hour fast each day really helps.
Oh, that's more of a what's the word? Metabolism or something where you're trying to get your body to not store the food that it eats, but instead burn the food that it eats. So you're trying to make it think, well, there's not food all the time. So you better, or no, wait, I don't know what you're trying to do. I would say it's the other way. Like if you're trying to store fat, you're going to make it think, hey, there's not food, store all this fat. I don't know what the hell's going on. So I get what you're saying, though. They want you to eat. Now I understand what you're saying. They want you to eat just during that 8 hours. And I guess that's the same as stopping eating at 9 o'clock. Because unless you go to sleep at 9 o'clock, then most people are going to sleep, way later than that. So that means they're going to wake up, somewhere between 6 and 7 or something. So yeah, they're barely going to eat when between 7 and 9. So that's about the same as what you're talking about. Not quite.
Yep. And I don't want people thinking like, oh, if I just fast, I'll lose weight. No, not the case. Because I mean, it was very diet dependent. I mean, there's a lot that I had to go and change. Like now, because I've never been one for sweets like cake or any crap like that. Never been real big on that stuff. Never was real big on junk food or anything. So cutting that stuff out wasn't hard, but for me, the hard part was pasta because growing up, that was just part of everyday meal was
Oh,
having pasta. So cutting that, what's up?
Just think of where pasta comes from. Nobody likes to talk about the seedy underbelly of the pasta industry, but basically there's different shapes and sizes and diameters of worms. And you've ever seen how a worm grows? It has to shed its skin every couple of minutes. So that's what spaghetti is. It's just the shedded skin off of a spaghetti worm. And then there's a muscovy worm and there's a ravioli worm. So yeah, you just, like there's the ravioli slug and the whatever. So yeah, just think of it as the husk of a spaghetti larva, and then you won't want to eat all that gross spaghetti anymore. Or you could like my one friend, Clover just jumped in. He knows Joe. Like you try to piss off Joe, suggest that he pays for spaghetti. Like he will not pay for like tomatoes, like ketchup and crackers or whatever the hell he calls it. Like he won't pay for like the cheapest food ever made. So you could think of it in those two ways. Like, plus it's just super bad for you. Unless you're eating like good pasta, it's pretty much like eating white bread. Right? It's not even good for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There is some. Tell you one thing that I have been doing to substitute the pasta is a stuff called Pasta Zero. Have you seen that?
I
Let
have
me just
not.
interrupt for a second. I don't know who JF is, but just in case you think just because you asked this question 20 minutes ago and we've been talking about food, just so you know, we only talk about guns here. So we'll eventually get to your question when we're done talking about food. But we only talk about guns here. So we will talk about this question eventually.
Let's go
What
to the
is that?
question now.
No, I don't mind. Are you talking like spaghetti squash or something different?
It's yeah, I was trying to read what it said here about it, but it's Pasta Zero, shirataki spaghetti.
Shirataki, is that a fungal thing? Is that
Oh.
mushroom?
It sounds like it, don't it?
Well, shiitake is a mushroom type, but I'm just
no,
wondering
Not
because
shiitake is shirataki.
yeah, no, I heard you.
But yeah,
I got it. I just wonder because it sounded,
So-
'cause it's similar.
I don't know. All I do is eat it. Let's see. Enjoy pasta zero shirataki spaghetti. Fruit product doesn't contain any wheat, making it gluten free. Low calorie. Made from the root of the cognac plant, which sometimes called the konyaku potato. So I knew it was like Japanese. It was like
Oh, okay.
Asian in
Okay,
some way. But
So it's a
But you-
potato starch formed into pasta. But what we all need to remember about
no,
all
it's
of the
it's no. It's not a potato because definitely not because I don't know of any like no carb potatoes.
No, I think they're saying it's its own thing. It's sort of like
Yeah.
I don't know, like a rutabaga or something. Or wait, no,
Alright.
I'm thinking of the wrong
Like
thing.
a turnip or something, maybe.
Well, they're just saying it's like a potato. I don't think they're saying it's a potato. I'm guessing. Have you ever had spaghetti squash where when you
Yeah.
cook it, it comes apart like a spaghetti? I'm guessing it's something like that. That when they cook it and smash it, it comes apart into spaghetti, as opposed to like a potato that's reformed.
Dude, it seriously looks like a potato when you look it up, though. It
Okay.
really kind of does. It's
Oh,
weird.
so you think it is reprocessed into a pasta from a potato then?
No,
I
I
was
mean
thinking
it's not a potato. I'm just saying it kind of looks like a potato, but I know it's not a potato. A potato would be starchy, and it's not starchy.
But I mean, it's some fruit. I thought maybe when the fruit was cooked, it shreds into spaghetti. It's not just the raw
no,
fruit.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's processed into the spaghetti. Yeah,
Okay.
but my point is that it's low carb, low calorie, gluten free, whatever, and it's only good for me. I've got to be really really careful with like tomato paste and ketchups and things like that because of the sugar, right? So some Alfredo sauce because cheese is okay, low carb, that way, go low carb that way with like a cheese type sauce, and maybe some chicken, and it's pretty good. It'll satisfy your pasta cravings anyway.
All carbs convert to sugar in our bodies, though.
Yeah.
So even if you go low carb, your body's still going to convert it. And that's what I mean. Back when I was somewhat diligent about weight loss, I just avoided everything white, sugar, flour, everything white, and except salt. And that worked out for me for a while. But I also tried the like almost exclusive protein thing because that your body spends so much time and energy trying to digest it. But the thing that I found most expensive but most effective is freaking fruit. Vegetables, fruit throughout the day, vegetable assemblies for dinner, and you can just bulk. You can eat it all day long. And the only thing is that your food bill's not going to be the lowest on that.
See, the sugars in the apples and oranges and things are bad. Now, I happen to love strawberries and berries or something. That was the diet I'm on that I can have. So I eat the crap out of strawberries. For sure.
Yeah, berries are phenomenal, but citrus in general is no good. Bananas, something with their sugars that they have are not the best for you. And as far as vegetable goes, peas, carrots, corn, same deal.
Green, pretty much vegetables.
Yeah.
It's
And you
I mean,
could chew on some kale or some greens for a while, you know.
squash. You're okay. You're okay with some squash and some other things like that. But mainly, if it's a vegetable, green. But I tell everybody because I get people that ask about my diet and what I've been doing and all this other stuff, and I'll tell them point blank, mine's complicated. I don't mind talking about it, but um, I could give you some pointers, and then you're going to have to just see what your body likes and doesn't like, and what you're able to stick with discipline wise, and go from there. I'm not a believer in you go grab a book or do an online program or some weird. So everybody's body's different. So the best thing you can do is figure out what works for you.
And it's your head's attached to it too. So what works for you when you're 18 isn't going to work for you when you're 81, right? And everything in between is going to be some shade or some variation. You're going to go have ups and downs, and then anyway. So and then your situation's different. Somebody with a baby is going to be different than somebody with an 18-year-old kid.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I don't mind talking about food. We'll go back to it too, perhaps, but just so that we're not going too long. I don't know who JF is, if that's somebody new or not. I did post something on Instagram, so it's potential that somebody new's come along.
Cool.
And yeah, this is a gun conversation, but it's also a conversation. So we don't have a script or list of things we're going to talk about. We leave it up to the people who are here. So thanks for bringing up a question there. So question, in these trying times, should we well-armed folks, and that's important because I think later on they start beating around with that, but the well-armed folks focus on lowers and parts more than guns, ammo, and accessories like mags and grips and lights, etc. So lowers and parts, so I'm guessing he means, or JF means parts kits, not specific parts that are hard to get at tough times, as opposed, on lowers parts, more guns. I guess it's all those things. Should we focus on, because he says or there. Okay, so it's all the stuff in front of the or all the stuff after? Well, then, yeah, all the stuff in front. I can't imagine any reason why you'd be buying a light or a stock right now, right?
I read it like he's like, pick one, like in between the commas, pick one. And he's talking about lowers and parts, meaning that's probably lowers, uppers, butt stocks, trigger, lower parts kits, upper parts kits, bolt carrier groups, things to put AR.
Well, answer however you want. JF can if he's still around, she can or he can, whatever, clarify. But yeah, answer it whichever angle you take it, because it's sort of a big question with a bunch of commas in it.
Reloading and reloading components and necessary supplies.
Yeah, that's something he didn't add, but those that don't reload are not maybe not thinking about it too. So no bad on him for that. But
yeah, but is that something that in the situation where, because he says in trying times,
yeah.
Is that when you want to go learn what reloading components you should think about getting and then try to compete with experienced reloaders? I think what happens if you think, oh, I'm going to get reloading stuff, and you go to the store right now, you're getting all the stuff reloaders decided not to buy.
You're right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're buying the 38, or no, you're buying the 45 gap of reloading stuff.
Yeah. You're really behind the curve when it comes to the equipment and supplies. You're having to scrape for powders that will work but are not optimal and things like that. I'll answer this by simply saying, I'll say more guns is what I'm going to say. But I'm going to frame that within a context of you need to be opportunistic and investment minded with more guns. So not go out and pay retail or more than normal retail or anything like that, but look for deals on things that are getting overlooked right now, because everybody wants the AR-15, everybody wants the Glock, the Smith & Wesson M&P, the whatever, and so they trade in grandpa's revolver. I've talked about this a bunch of times before, and you can get that for $200-300, half of what it's worth sometimes, or whatever it might be. Be opportunistic, because that's always going to appreciate in value regardless. And some of the more tactical things out there, which are more appealing and dry up as far as the supply chain really quick, they're going to be back to normal really cheap prices. I mean, and all of that good stuff. As soon as everything comes back around eventually, where you would have purchased something that would have accumulated value during that waiting time. As far as everything else that's on that list, I think now, if you're in a situation now where you don't have that, sure, if you can find that at reasonable retail prices, pick any of that stuff up. But I think if you haven't already stocked up on that previously prior to this panic, there's a lot of new firearm owners out there, so forth and so on. So it's a situation where I'm not going to demonize somebody and shake the finger and say you should have done this because maybe they weren't around or knew to do that. But as whoever it was, DJ or whatever, brought up the reloading stuff, yeah, in good times is when you should be buying everything on that. And then you've got that through the trying times, and then utilize the trying times. At least that's my take on it, to get those really special deals and things that you'll enjoy because they're unique or they're old or they're whatever the case might be.
Yeah, I'd say you're going to have to look at your inventory because you said well armed. So I would assume that means you have a pretty good inventory at home as it is. So if you've already got ARs, do you really need to go get more ARs? Or do, like Clover said, find some better deals right now? But, if you've got 3 ARs sitting in your safe, but you've only got 3 magazines, and yeah, maybe you want to go and nab some extra mags if you're worried about those. Or, Dems are talking about banning online sales of parts. So maybe you want to look into getting some extra parts if you don't have extra parts laying around. And, that could be for anything at that point, because they're, it's not like they're targeting just parts for defense rifles or anything like that. It's going to be across the board. So, if you're worried about the mainspring in your revolver getting worn out, well, go pick up another one. But I think a lot of it's going to come down to what you already have in your collection and just evaluating where your priorities are going to sit.
I would say magazines. That's the one I've been big bag. Nobody's ever said, damn it, I have too many magazines.
Well, only if you buy them when they're at an outrageous price, and then everything eases and the price drops on them. Then people go, "Oh, I bought way too many magazines." At that time, having the magazine, you're right, you can't have too many of a perishable product. So without
you can always use them to start fires in the chimney. There's always good uses for magazines. Get all
well,
you
but I'm looking at stuff like what do you call it, when 94 happened and they did a sunset. Well, without 94 without a sunset, and we already know that they're never going to do a sunset again. The only reason they did a sunset is because people successfully fought with the whole idea of a ban in the first place. They're going to suggest that even though there was a sunset put in place that said this is not a good idea, and because we insist it's not a good idea, we're going to look at it every 10 years and decide whether or not it was effective. And after 10 years, it was looked at and it was not effective, and everyone decided to let it go. There was no interest in keeping it going, so that failed. And unless something's changed, it should be, they're going to suggest something's changed, and they're going to get rid of that sunset this time around.
So,
right. Okay. So I'm thinking, let's say they get rid of the sunset. In that case, who knows if there's ever going to be magazines again? We just had an election where not half the population, because that's the misconception. If you look at the number of people that vote, half of them voted for one way and half of them voted the other. And that's only a percentage of the actual population, but doesn't matter. It's all we've got to use as an indicator, but pretty close half and half split. So there's nothing there to suggest that firearms ownership, the couple of million somewhere between 10 and some number that anybody suggests is, unreasonable because no one knows how many gun owners there are. Some number of gun owners are not the 300 million people in this country. And those people that technically own a piece of property does not make them care about the rights associated behind it or whatever. So we could easily be going into a future where, like a lot of countries, where they said, oh yeah, there is this perception that guns are the most violent piece of property, so let's just restrict them because I don't own a gun, so not in my backyard. If I don't own it, I don't care. So they get rid of it. So when they get rid of it and you don't have companies like Magpul making magazines, again, the people that didn't live through the 10 years of the assault weapons ban have no idea what it's like to envy a large magazine, because the whole country was living under California rules, and the only magazines that existed were built prior to. And since prior to 1994, there was no appeal for a 30 round or a 50 round. Those were all novelty, almost joke, almost ridiculous, because no actual manufacturer was making them. There was just little hodgepodge put together stuff for gun shows that was just jokes. And that's all there was for high capacity anything. There was nothing practical or efficient made for anything except machine guns, and that was all bell fed. So anyway, there was nothing like, there was a lot of 10 round magazines for everything, and there was only a few 30s. And I mean, Clover knows, anybody who was alive from 1994 shooting guns to 2004, as that decade, 10 years of our existence went on, magazines got extremely expensive. Those ones that say for law enforcement use and everybody laughs at them. Ha, 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 law enforcement shouldn't get magazines. We should have the same, ha, 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 decades later, there's, you weren't even alive. Half the people that weren't alive for 9/11, how could they be alive for the assault weapons ban, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have no idea what it's like to not have magazines. So I used to get all kinds of crap when I would say magazines are disposable. Magazines are designed to be used a few times and then thrown away. But because people buy guns that have $90 magazines and $60 magazines, they insist on taking a perishable thing and buying replacement parts and shoving them in there. And yeah, you can buy replacement parts because if a magazine gets broke before its end of life, you can replace parts. In extreme circumstances, you're going to make things last longer than they would. But under normal circumstances, with a supply chain, magazines are disposable. They're a perishable object designed to be made out of aluminum and not steel, so that they bend and not your feed ramps on your mag bend and not your bolt and stuff. Like, they're designed to fail at some point. They're designed to be the weak link so that your gun doesn't break. So, magazines are important. You should have a ton of them, but is this the time to buy them? So that's where I was going to go. So you, without knowing the whole thing. So the question is, in these trying times, should we well-armed folks focus on all this stuff? Like, I think the only realistic going into something is lowers and parts, the stuff that you cannot get and will be restricted. And that's lowers. So if they're going to grandfather, it's lowers. If they're going to turn everything into $200, I don't know. Is that even realistic? Like, you're technically going to have to pay $200 on everything if you really think they could get to that point. But at that point, you'd want all lowers you can get, because I don't think it's going to go down very easily with anyone. So,
right.
If it ever gets to that, that's when you really get crazy. But I really think when you get down to it, all the other, like trying times we've seen, lowers are gone, and parts kits like the internals, the trigger and everything of an AR, gone, because everybody's trying to put together all their old parts, or all their pieces.
Right. Well, and I want to mention, I want to talk about the sunsets thing you mentioned here in a second. I think that's important. But on what you just hit on, as far as requiring everybody, for the $200 stamp or whatever it might be, that's going to be, we know how they operate. We've seen it time and time and again. They'll push that, right? Knowing that it's not the logistics of even trying to do that are mind boggling. Not that it couldn't be done, but it's mind boggling. So they'll push that in an effort to get a compromise back where there's a national registration. It's free, but you have to at least register them type thing. You know what I mean? I think that's the danger, and why we have to be vigilant is they're going to throw out some crazy stuff, and then they're going to in the spirit of quote unquote compromise and working with the other side and all this other stuff, they're going to do like they've done to us time and time and time again, is because there's those people in the middle, that will do that sort of thing. And they'll say, well, if we don't do A here, take the compromise, then they're going to try to ram through B. On the sunset thing real quick. I've done a lot of reading, founding fathers, and especially Thomason and Madison and those guys. Founding fathers talked about sunset clauses. We talk about the Constitution and how great the Constitution is, and some people say it's absolutely perfect. I don't believe it is. 17th Amendment, but I'm really surprised was as much as the founding fathers talked about term limits, talked about sunsets on legislation, for the exact reason that we talk about the NFA now and its arbitrary rules and it being created at a time to try to address a specific problem of the time and that sort of thing. And the founders knew this. They knew that, legislation would be created, times would change, and the left side of the aisle argues this all the time. Well, the Constitution is living, and the founders want it to be living because it has to apply. They didn't know this, and they didn't know that. Well, they most certainly they didn't know that, but that's why we have the legislative process, and we have a process by which to amend the Constitution. And I just go back to sunsets. That it's a novel idea on every single piece of legislation that's passed, to have and some of the founders actually push for that, is to have, require it to have some type of sunset to say, hey, whether people are 100% for it, we don't know how this is going to work out. So let's put a 4-year, let's put a 6-year, let's put a 10-year in case something doesn't work out. It doesn't require balance of power and going to the Supreme Court and doing all of this. The legislature, which aside from the 17th Amendment, was supposed to represent the people and the states, they can revisit the issue, tweak things if they need to, or get rid of it altogether.
No, I agree 100%. Everything, if it's valid, it should welcome the scrutiny of a verification every 10 years. The only thing you could say against that is that it would be inefficient and it would cause extra cost and delay, which is cost. Damn, that sucks. But the delay, good, because government shouldn't be fast and easy. And inefficient, awesome, because I fear an efficient government, an efficient state. Anyway, if anybody wants to throw in on this, we're plowing, but we're getting into good topics. That's what it's all about. So we're rolling up our sleeves in the middle of the night on a Friday, and Pants is saying, since we're talking about trying times, and like I said, if you want to jump in, you guys know, just jump in. Since we're talking about trying times and already being well armed, that would imply you've already got guns and ammo. Therefore, I'd say in trying times, fill other holes, armor, training, etc. So I don't know. If you're already good to go, then again, is this the time to get armor when it's a premium? I don't know. Unless there's some good deal, right? I guess jump on a deal whenever. But I'd suggest, again, maybe not when it's panic and stress. And then training, maybe honing or practicing, but trying to, under stress, learn a new thing, that's too much. So, and I'm just nitpicking, but I think that concept is valid, that if you're not already, and that's, I guess, what I was going to get to is, if you're not already prepared, then the time to get prepared isn't when everybody's picking up their stuff and getting ready to walk to the thing, right? The time to get prepared was long ago. So what you're going to do is support, watch, assist, and just effing fight, because guess what? Nobody's prepared, not for war, not for fight, right? And you can practice and you can think and blah, 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 but you're never going to know. So you just got to get ready to take some lumps and think about when the dirty communists were so poor that they only gave a rifle to every other dude, and then half the other guys got ammo, and then they said, go meet and stick your chocolate in your peanut butter once you figure out who gets killed right off the bat or whatever. Just figure, somebody's going to have to walk into the hamburger thing and get 8, and somebody can pick up an M16 somewhere. So, that's unfortunately, if that's where you're dealt with the time of whatever, but seriously, that's not what we're dealing with. That's if that ever comes to be. There's going to be people that are just being born when Red Dawn hits. There's going to be people that are old when Red Dawn hits, and there's going to be people that are 4 years old, and there's going to be people that are 14, and there's going to be people that are 24, and there's going to be people that are 44, right? Everybody's going to pick up where they're at and pick up the rope or
Right.
do something to play a part. So don't get all butt hurt that you're not good to go, because guess what? You ain't good to go. The people that are good to go are sitting in a room somewhere with a helicopter fueled up and ready to go, because they are good to go. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's only a couple of people doing that stuff. Everybody else is somewhere in between.
Or
So if
planes,
you're-
they got their route mapped out to Belize or some island off the coast of South America or what whatever.
Right. So, but we're all in some area of disprepared. So, I guess all I'm getting at is, just play the cards you're dealt, and nothing's going to go bad. This based on history, based on reality. Things in the world are not getting more chaotic; they're getting less and less chaotic as the political and physical borders are under less and less dispute. Trade is the way that things are played out, and not war. There's no gain in war. There's nothing to there's no plays that can be made like in the olden days. So what we do have is a media that's dying, and we have a bunch of people that have options, and they have fled from platforms before, like AOL or MySpace, on the internet, but they've left other places in the past when they felt duped, right? The networks or types of information that they felt wasn't truthful or honest. They'll flee from it, and what we've got is a population that's changing from our parents to our grandchildren, or from our grandparents to our grandchildren, however you want to look at it, and depending on where you're at in the thing. So we're seeing a lot of stuff playing out, and they're able to play strings and stuff. So anyway, we're getting at giant cycles that have been going on for a long time, and there's no indication that it's about to spin out. So assuming that I'm correct and it's going to play out to some end, what we're going to get is a cyclical situation where we're going to get good times and bad times. So if we have good times in the future, that's when you do your training and your purchasing, and like Clover said, be strategic about it, and what people are about to do. That's I guess long way of saying basically what everybody else just said, I think. But really don't think now is the time to try to acquire. The people that are acquiring now are the new and the suckers, really, right?
So
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've got a question for you guys going back to the sunset thing. So let's say they ram another band down our throats, don't do the sunset or anything like that. Inevitably, it's going to go to the Supreme Court. How confident are you guys that since we had the previous assault weapons ban, we have all the data and information from that supporting that, hey, it didn't work, there is no difference, et cetera, et cetera. The rulings of, hey, these are common rifles that are used every day, et cetera, that if it were to happen and go to Supreme Court, it gets struck down and becomes law of the land that, hey, no more bans like that.
Well, I mean, don't kid yourself. I mean, if they get a chance to, do it, they will do it. Simple as that. And then you've got to fight with the Supreme Court and everything else. But I think you're right. I mean, I think an assault weapons ban, their mentality is going to be, it didn't go far enough. We can do it better. That's always seems to be the thing is, okay, now it's time to double down, right? It's that mentality that the best way to get out of a hole is dig it deeper. Now, an argument can be made that you can get out of a hole by making it wider, because you could then stack the dirt and basically walk out. But but yeah, that's the whole notion that politicians run on is, oh, it just wasn't done right. It's like they say about socialism all the time. It's never been done the right way. Yeah, okay. But I don't think if we've got because there's even Democrats that's political suicide to sign on to an assault weapons ban, especially one that's quote unquote done right. That's going to go as far as anything semi-auto, even a Ruger 1022 or what have you, right? Political suicide. So you're going to have to see pretty good majorities in legislature, which is both the House and the Senate. And even then, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that it gets through. And they'll make it look, because here's the thing. They all kinds of videos with Biden's gun control plan and all this other stuff, right? So the same way Trump has told us some stuff and hadn't done it, Biden is telling people on his side what they want to hear, knowing that he probably can't pull certain things off too, right?
Well, that's why I hesitate to go down this trail, because this is all of what if, but the what if is that, like what you're saying right now, is that if he actually follows through, and that'll depend not on his ambition, it'll depend on his situation, right? His scenario, like if he's got a Senate, if he's got a House, if he doesn't,
even then, I don't think so.
If he's got a split House, he could rattle the cage as loud as he wants, knowing that there's no actual consequence, that he'll never actually.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, it's a scapegoat.
If he's got it all to himself, he's going to pull an Obama potentially, or he'll be the worst president ever, and will really have something horrible happen. He'll get a Republican Congress, and he'll rattle the cage, but he won't be able to do anything.
So we definitely rallied with Obama, right? With the executive orders, with a lot of the other stuff, but we shut down a lot of the gun control, vast majority of it, right? At the federal level.
Well, and here's the thing.
And so
I don't want to distract you, but let's go back. I'm going to interrupt you, but I'm going to let you keep going. But let's go back and look at, does anyone ever dissect what happened with Obama? And go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we can do whatever, but I'm just saying, I mean, it's, looking back, it's like not a whole lot. And for a while, he had exactly what you're talking about. He had complete control. And he chose to go down the Obamacare route because that was a legacy for him. So what is a big issue that we've heard Democrats talk about, right? We talk about, first of all, is, again, healthcare related stuff. All of them have talked big about that. But I think Obama's got his name stamped on that, and I don't think they would move to do anything that kind of that tarnished that, right? So they're not going to come up with their own healthcare plan. I think they would do something more like maybe tweak or amend on his a little bit, paying homage to that. However, one thing that they talked about a lot is this free college for everybody crap. And so what if they have everything, but like with Obama, it's, oh crap, we've got everything. Now we can do this instead of taking guns away and going down that fight, because people are going to put up a fight, obviously, with that. Let's go down the road of giving people stuff. That's going to help solidify our base even further, blah, blah, blah. And let's institute the Biden or Harris College Tuition Act of 2021, right? Or 2022. And then, and I'm just giving a scenario here, and then we can get into what you're talking about. But let's say that happens, and then already a lot of people are upset. And in 2022, right, then we have what sort of happened with Obama. The rally cry has been out. Everybody solidifies and starts fighting the fight and getting the word out. 2022, Republicans flip everything over, and then, like Obama, it's tough to get anything done at that point. So that's definitely a scenario, a far more likely scenario than seeing draconian, anyway, gun control legislation. But anyway,
it would be like, if you had made one of them charts with all the different variables, like the horrible scenarios are like very few, and they're way over in the corner. Like it would take a whole bunch of ifs for all that to happen. And like all the ifs, like they decide to do it, and all the ifs, like all these things happen where we can't do anything about it. Like it would just take too many variables to all flip in the correct direction.
Right.
No, I like what you're saying there, and that's the
Did-
potential, like, but it's not something we want to rely on
No.
necessarily. But it could also be pushed or directed or moved or create. There can be effect made there. I think by being strong, by being effective, whatever lobbyists, effective rallyists, effective whatever it's called at the Supreme Courtist, but being effective is the same thing as whenever they do their strategy to go, that's a fight that we're not going to, like you said, that's a fight we're not going to win. So it's obvious. Let's not even go there.
Or it's not worth their time, right?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't add up. Like we
It's
can
like-
go this way and get no resistance. We can go that way and just get and the other part is and this is the other thing that I was gonna first I did put in the notes there about the Obama thing, but another thing as you were talking that I was thinking is number one, it's not the same as 13 because we're in a different world than 13. Like we are literally in a different world. Organizations exist and have existed throughout years, so they're what's the word, experienced, and they're resilient. Like they've grown, so they aren't just brand new concepts, but they're existing organizations that exist today, like DC Project and all a bunch of others that are smaller, but that are all efforting in the same direction, and that is a difference that we just didn't have back then. Like it was easier to go after gun owners back then because they all had this perception that we were disorganized and who knows what they are. It's really difficult to not know what gun owners are anymore because you could send a couple of interns or even more, somebody who knows what they're doing, send real researchers out and find out what gun owners are all about, and they might come back and go, gun owners, like, whoa, we don't want to mess. That's a large amount of people, and they're not stupid. The gun owners aren't just weirdos. They're not just full of hate. There's some, the ones that we make fun of are, but wow, that's not the representative of gun owners. Like, there's a whole bunch of people we don't want to mess with. And you've got all the liberal gun owners and all the different groups represented that have their own gun owner version. So it's very difficult to just say, like, hey, ladies, guns are bad. Y'all right? And then all ladies go, sure, yeah, they must be. We haven't had any other influence. You know what I mean? Like, now they can go, no, I believe you're talking shit, and your shit doesn't affect us anymore. Now, how effective is Bloomberg's money when he's basically, you know what I'm saying, like complaining about something, just ineffective. Like they'll have to do something else. Perhaps, I mean, it can go. Could go that.
Did gun control go from like in their top 3 things that they wanted to maybe 9th?
There's no way to know from top 10, I guess, but it definitely wasn't. I mean, it wasn't on their immediate radar for the last couple of situations.
But I guess I'm kind of agreeing with Clover a little bit, and you a little bit, that there could be some significant gun legislation, but it doesn't seem very likely. It seems like they've got way bigger things that they are slam dunks for them rather than come after the one where they actually have to fight.
Especially with all the lockdowns and the economy because of that.
Rioting and burning shit and the cops saying, hey, we're not coming.
Yeah. One thing that's 2 things. You mentioned 2 things. First of all, the shenanigans that are going on that, in that's supposed to be just simply a protest or whatever. They're going to have to somehow get a handle on that. And I figure they can make a couple phone calls and probably snap their fingers and control that, quite honestly. But the second, and I think more pressing issue is going to be everything because of the COVID and making sure, because if the economy continues to tank and if they keep shutting down and all of this other kind of stuff, then it's going to, then that's going to fall squarely on whoever the president is. It's going to reflect badly in midterms and badly in 4 years. So one of their priorities is going to have to be dealing with COVID, getting the engine, that is America, cranked back up and running.
I don't know. I mean, I hear you, but that's if their goal is growth and progress and keeping the system in place and strengthening it. If their goal,
or simply just getting voted back into office.
if that's getting voted back into office from people who want to see the country in the same place and be strong and secure. But if they truly want to see a different way and they got voted in by people who want to see a different way, then I could see a 1984, the book, not any, I don't know about the movie, but the book,
Right.
where the government, the state uses something like this as a, basically like, I don't know what they call that, where you put a collar on something and then you've got a hinge and a stick. So not really like a leash, but that like a thing where they push around like a prisoner on a collar with a hinge and then just a stick, so you can literally push them into where you want them to go and they have no choice. They just, it's not like being dragged, but they get pushed along and set down and picked up and like that. Like they could use that to just bully us in every single way. And if their goal is to not necessarily destroy, right? I'm not going to suggest that every one of them's a rabid socialist. They might have a million different ambitions, which is more likely. But if their million different ambitions all revolve around the state being the ultimate bully that gets to, whoever owns the state, is the puppeteer who gets to manipulate the big robot that pushes everybody down, everybody that's going to obey the state no matter what. The horse on Animal Farm, they're going to do what they're going to do because the state told them, and all the people that don't question, the sheep are going to do whatever the thing tells them. So the people that want to operate that mechanism just for the sake of it, who knows what kind of craziness they're going to do. Guns are a symbol of individual freedom, liberty, right? Individual freedom is what gives each of us our self-direction based on personal self-interest, a selfish self-interest. But they don't see a bunch of people with a self-interest being able to all work together. They see that as horrible. So they want to, push the state self-interest on everybody. So who knows? Like I say, they could push around guns just because it's a thing, but we start getting pushed around with where we can park and when we can do this or that. This might be one of the many things we got to deal with. And is that a strategy? Like, hey, we can't go after this by itself, but what if we just grab these people, put a harness on them, tell them when they can eat, when they can't? Pretty soon, like, oh, it's tough to get food, so here's what you're going to eat and when. Those are all the kind of things that socialists when we say socialist, when I say socialist, I'm thinking like the horrible regimes that have happened. That's what they get when there's scarcity and the state is the only one who is able anymore to supply. It's when your goal is to make the state strong, then all those different individual reasons why they want the state strong all come together to make the state strong. So that's what I fear, is that we get too much of that stuff going and not a bunch of people who remember what it's like to have individual strength instead of collective strength, or rely on only collective strength.
Right.
But that got pretty different. So going back to Obama, when Obama, because I'm doing some calendar stuff here, Obama's executive actions took place on, January 16th of 2013, which was less than a month. It was weeks after the situation that presented it all. So he barely had time to write it all up, decide to do it at a national level, an unprecedented reaction to an incident with one person, a heinous, horrible act of one person. And the president decided this is an opportunity to act at a federal level and came out with these executive actions. Like I say, that was literally at SHOT Show. That was a Saturday. It was when SHOT Show was it wrapping around a weekend? No, it's a Saturday this year. It was like a Wednesday or something that year, probably. But anyway, I can remember when they shut down SHOT Show for a while to do that. Did we win? Did we come up and successfully combat the threat? Did we work together and accomplish things that were necessary in a strategic way, to stop the foe? Or did they quit? Did they not have the resolve and quit because they're just wimpy? Did they quit because they saw any resistance and said, oh, geez, or did they quit because they saw resistance and said, wait a minute, we need 10 more years and then we can do this, and set up everything needed because they're playing a long game and they know we're not. So they stopped immediately in 2013 when they didn't see an absolute win and said, wait a minute, let's go back to silent mode. Let's set up another 12 chess pieces. Then let's get them XYZ. Has anybody ever seen anything where they looked back and scrutinized, did we win or did they just quit playing?
I think it was a combination of a little bit of both. I mean, we obviously, and I just stepped out for a second. I didn't hear everything you're saying, but I'm assuming you're talking about the Obama thing. But
I was basically just saying, yeah, did we win or did they quit?
I think we definitely rallied, and not just as the 2A community, but there was a lot of anti-Obama sentiment and the Tea Party and a lot of that other stuff, and that helped to bolster it, I'm sure too. But I'm convinced there was an element of there was an element of that it wasn't worth it to them. They had bigger fish that wasn't going to cost them elections. I mean, they seen how ramming.
That's what I mean. But, is it like, oh, this didn't work and we're just boxing, so we're going to take another punch? Or is there a deeper, bigger game where, or maybe deeper players, whatever, higher seats so they can see bigger playing field, but said, stop now because of later. We can, what I'm saying? Like when somebody's really playing and they've really got resources and they've got people on their team, they've got a goal that they don't care if it happens today or tomorrow. They just want the goal to happen. And they really don't care. Like they know that there's other people who, want this to happen. And I think the goal is, again, the removal of individual liberty from this whole equation. They don't want individuals running around. Firearms are the property that signifies that we have the individual resolve order. So they need to get rid of that. It's not like our cars, those are next, or it's one of the things that they're limiting, right? So as they get robots in there, then we aren't going to have cars. There'll be community cars like Ubers with robots in them, right? We won't need a car when there's a way to get around it. We don't need a car. So anyway, there's different things that they're going after. Guns we carry in our pocket, and guns we can give to our children and inherit. So those are super critical for the state to get rid of. I think that's why they're going after these things long term. So that's why I guess what I'm asking, do you think they just gave up, or do you think they strategically playing the long game of chess and said, nope, we aren't winning? Because anybody who's really playing a game is going to see through a couple of steps ahead and what other options are there. We're going to need X amount of resources around that corner before we play that way, and we're going to need 6 or 7 things over here in case we ever get pushed over there. Let's stop playing. Let's get these other things in play. It's like we're playing, I'm thinking like we're playing Live, Die, Repeat, except the anti-gunners are that crazy blob monster. And, they get the opportunity to say, stop, let's set everything up again. Now let's play them. And we have to keep starting over and playing them and starting over and playing them and starting, at least that's our tendency. We don't work together. We don't have a long-term memory as a community. And so we come to every conflict as if we never met we all are on the same team, but we've never played together before.
All right.
Anyway, that's kind of stuff we talked about in the middle of the night on Fridays. Now we got all kinds of people jumping in. Garrett's throwing $4 at me. Now I'm talking all night. It's like lunch tomorrow.
Well, here's another thing. We've got 7 million new firearms owners this year. How do we get them to work with us, make them say, oh shit, our rights are under attack, and have them not just realize it when something does go through? Because those 7 million voices, I mean, that's a heck of a number. For how long now did the NRA say, oh, we got 5 million members? Well, this year, 50% more than that just decided to go out and buy a gun, which is awesome. But how do we educate them and say, hey, we're under attack, and if you really believe in this right that you got into this year, you need to make your voice heard?
They don't care. They're not looking for that. And that's why it's wrong. I don't think there are 5 million or 7 million or whatever you said. It's super unrealistic. You really think that more people than ever joined the NRA or current members of the NRA decided to buy a gun? Maybe. There's no possible way I believe that. But even if it is true, it's even more, I have even more resolve that they're not gun owners. They just happen to own a piece of property, and it's in the worst possible scenario that they bought that property. They bought it out of fear because they think it's a talisman. They think that it's somehow a shield and some sort of life insurance and some sort of a like force field and some sort of a like rack your shotgun and the enemy's going to flee. Like they have the most unrealistic expectations. I don't think they bought it's a security blanket. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like none of this stuff is like the reasons we'd want somebody to make a decision to buy a firearm. We all know that when you go to a CCW class, a good CCW class, you're going to come out wondering as a decent citizen whether or not you still want to make the decision and have the responsibility to carry a gun. These people aren't anywhere near that. These people bought property that they have unrealistic expectations of. They probably think that by buying that property, by purchasing it, a majority of them probably think that they've entered some realm and that they've become dirty or tainted, or there's something that they're not going to tell their friends about. They're embarrassed that they own this property. Perhaps this isn't something that they been thinking about and preparing for and saving up for, and they've been asking their friends, and it's like, I'm thinking about buying this new car, but now I'm buying it because I see a future where I'm going to be making more money at the job. It's like the opposite. This is like cancer to our community, and we've got all these people who now they're all going to be welcomed in, and they're all going to have a more opportunity they've ever had before. But all these people that are welcoming them in, and I think they're going to, I don't want to doom nothing, but we have to be ready to see the biggest thing of apathy that we've ever seen before. The biggest swarm of people leaving our community because they had unrealistic expectations than we've ever seen before. Just because this is all fluctuations, right? We don't live at points. We don't hit plateaus and then always climb. Like this is just a bunch of people that bought property. I think that next year is going to be weird for sure. But the best case scenario, I think, is that they're all just going to sell their property or leave it in the closet and then maybe get around to listening to somebody like Walk the Talk America, like Mike, or somebody at the DC Project. Here's somebody like Cheryl Todd, or I don't know, trying to think of people who kind of reach outside of the gun community, but maybe they'll be like, oh yeah, I own a gun. You know what I mean? I don't know. Tell me I'm wrong, but please, I'm just saying, like, I hope I'm wrong, but I really don't think that we just got 7 million allies.
No, I completely agree with a lot of what you're saying.
20 years pleading, well, let's say realistically, the last 5 years with extreme effort, pleading to gun owners who I've met over the last 20 years. In the last 5 years, talking to people who I've had 20-year relationships with, trying to get them to focus on Second Amendment, and finding much frustration with that and very little success. It's a rare breed of somebody that cares about the right to do something. Most people, we just live through, what property we own and what we can do next or whatever.
But do we get a bunch of people that maybe not a million? What if it's 100,000? That's still game changing for our side a little bit.
Well, that's an awesome way to look at it. If it's 3,000 hardcore new 2A activists, how many did we have a year ago? We didn't have 3,000. I only know about 200. Period.
Some of those are younger and they're really good at social media that maybe like myself is not.
Yes, and coming at guns with a whole new thing. Like we've got a lot of people that come at guns as self-defense, period. And I'd like to see somebody come at guns as like, I don't know, material science or chemistry, something different.
Yeah, like I said, I agree with a lot of what you said there, G. And that's why I kind of look at it as if we can somehow reach those new owners. Obviously, we're not going to have retention of all of them. I mean, that's unrealistic. but if we can reach, even 10%, 10% of 7 million, that's a huge number. I obviously I think 10% is even overblowing it. But nonetheless,
crap on it because that's a good way to look at it. I don't think 10%. That's a totally rational number. I mean, I would probably shoot for 25. Be happy with 20, and you know what I mean. I don't think it's unrealistic at all to expect 10% of a group of people to think one way, especially when we're talking about guns specifically. They are unique. It's not like, I bought toilet paper because everybody's buying the toilet paper. There's like absolutely no barrier to entry there, right? Like they did decide to buy a gun. I am making a point using extremes or whatever, but anyway, I think you could definitely salvage a bunch of them. I don't want to make it sound too dire.
Yeah, and I don't know. It seems like we can talk to the current gun owners till we're blue in the face, but this new crowd, if we can make some awareness for them, and like I said, even if we only retain 10%, so that the last number I heard that I got, that 7 million, I believe it was a FBI statistic or something like that, that had said that. So that's where I got that number from. But so if you got 10% of that, you're what, 700,000, which is still an incredible number. And let's say they only reached out to one person. Well, that 700,000 just turned into 1.4 million.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go anecdotal a little bit because being that teacher guy, I know a lot of people that 10 years ago they would have never bought guns. There's a bunch of people I know that they didn't buy guns out of shame or talisman. They just wanted to protect their families. And I've been advocating that they all get a lot of training, but there's a lot of people that, then they talk to their friends and they're fairly normal people. There's scientists and people that, there's tons of people that have bought guns in the last couple of years that their demographics never bought guns before. So that's
exactly what I mean, though. Somebody that thinks by buying the gun that they've done like the thing that they needed, like buying a fire extinguisher. Like they've never had a fire. They've never tried using a fire extinguisher to put out a fire, but they got a fire extinguisher, so they're covered. And 99% of the time, they never have a fire, so there's no consequence. And that's pretty much the same thing with guns, right? You buy a gun because you're scared, and then nothing ever happens, and there's never a challenge, and you never get tested. But I guess that's why I call it a talisman. Like if you think like, oh, okay, I purchased it and I put it in the drawer, now I'm done. Like I bought my insurance. I don't mean like, I don't know if that's what you meant.
Well, I think it shows that we might be getting away from the image that guns are always terrible and they're shameful. I think we're getting away from that. Little old ladies bought guns.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. We don't know, right? Who bought it. We just know the people we know or whatever, and then what we've heard or what. I don't know if we'll ever get. I'm sure we'll get some sort of statistical breakdown or something from industry.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting to see.
So Garrett is saying the internet and fear of Biden is going to cause a huge win for rights. This won't be like the assault weapons ban.
So he's saying the polar opposite?
That because we're online and we can all talk to each other, right? And then because everybody's scared of what Biden's going to do, that everybody's going to band together and we're going to have we
certainly have a better way to communicate now than we did in 2013.
We have the potential. I wish I could say we do, because if we had a strong NRA, right, 5 million members and whatever network that creates, like if the NRA, a strong NRA with NRA.com and 5 million, 7 million members, let's say it was a competent organization. Right now there's 12 people that are corrupting it, and there's unfortunately 5 million members that are complacent, and then there's a group of people who are verbally upset and unwilling to work. So they're, calling for the burning of the whole thing or to watch the whole thing burn as Bloomberg forces influences the Attorney General in New York to take it down. So there's all these people that are basically working for Bloomberg. Oh, no, excuse me. They're not getting paid by Bloomberg. They're just doing the work of Bloomberg for free of watching the thing burn instead of doing any kind of work to save the thing. But without any of that editorial, which I feel like on my show I'm going to continue to do because that's actually what's going on. But let's say we had a decent NRA and it had, instead of what we got now, instead it was growing, and because of any interest over the last couple of years in anything, let's say, and somehow, even though it was growing, it was unsuccessful. So we're in the same boat we're in now, but there's this strong NRA. And then let's say Facebook does something weird, or Instagram, or you name the platform, because Facebook's the largest by far, many, many, many times bigger than YouTube. YouTube is a couple of times bigger than Instagram, and then all the other platforms don't even matter because they literally don't exist. Facebook is definitely the biggest one, and then YouTube, and then Instagram, and a couple others. So if one of those three or all three decide, we're told by a state, or the state decides, so we feel that we should follow, guns are bad, okay? And then they turn them off. Come on, man, there's no more guns here. A strong NRA with 7 million members could turn on its website and go, here's news, here's something, here's content, here's information, here's a place to hang out, here's a membership organization that has a platform, right? Government can say, we don't like your property or whatever, but it's not like Facebook can do anything about what happens on NRA's website, right? Or, pick the organization, go, I don't know what you call the other one. SAF. Any of those could have a powerful platform on the internet. What we've got now is YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. And I hear you, we have the potential to talk on the internet good, but we also have become, in my mind, because I'm an internet person from a long time ago, we've become complacent and lazy and willing to place most of our conversations on the Facebook. So many organizations that are 2A focused are on the Facebook. Like, what's your website? Oh, it's facebook.blah, blah, 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 right? Like, oh, where do we find you? Facebook.blah, blah, blah. Like, that is, I think, a vulnerability, but that's a super long way of saying, yeah, I hear you, but the internet could be way stronger. But anyway, go ahead. We have the internet. We have a fear of Biden. Big win for rights, but I guess you're saying from the existing core of gun owners, not necessarily dependent on the new ones, just because we talk and we're aware, and because we all know Biden's coming and we're going to be waiting for it and gritting our teeth and ready to fight, that whatever he throws at us, we're going to be going nuts. I'd like to say, I don't know, maybe reading into this a little bit, maybe even we go after some stuff like the Hearing Protection Act, hardcore. Like, we're not going to wait for your fight. We're going to bring you fights so that you can't even punch us. You're going to have to be deflecting our punches.
That'd be amazing.
I'm just kind of saying stuff, Mike. So now that Clover's gone, you guys have a chance to say something if you want. We're 2 hours in. There's a bunch of people out there. Garrett's throwing money at me, so I basically eat like a half a can of soup a day and some throw some instant mashed potatoes in there. So for $4, that's like 2 cans of soup and a thing of mashed potatoes. That's like 4 days worth of food right there. And then $10. Crap, I'm only
15 now.
Yeah. Shit, now there's another 5. Yeah, it's like a bill this month. So I do appreciate that. Thank you. I'm not talking shit. I don't know how many other people. I fucked $19. That's more than I made today. Well, no, it's not. Today's Free Patch Friday, but that's a third of what I made today altogether. I think right there. Thank you. So Biden's bans will be so far-reaching that the average Joe will be affected, and it will bite Biden in the butt from pushback. Man, that requires somebody to push back, and the gumption to want to push back, and the assumption that people feel they have a right to push back. I know my grandparents would have pushed back, and I know my parents knew they could push back, whether or not they would have, right? And I know we could push back, and that we know our grandparents would have pushed back, but our kids, our grandkids, man, I hope so. I hope so. And that would be an opportunity. They can't know it, and we can't know that they know it unless they got something to push. So thank you, Biden, for being the thing for our kids to resist against, right? To being the lightweight socialist that our kids get to bite or what, cut their teeth on.
So, do you think that they try and push all the crap that they can under Biden, knowing that he probably isn't going to be able to run for another term?
Interesting. So they can like test the smell, like, hey, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? You mean like that to see what floats?
Yep.
This-
And then
this
if it gets through, fine, cool, we got it through. And if it costs us the election, whatever. We weren't planning on having Biden, for another 4 years after that, anyways, because he's so damn old.
That's probably. Anybody really think they were like, oh, finally, we got Biden. Finally, we got an opportunity to put Biden up there. Oh, and it's also against Trump. Bonus, right? Like they were like, what? Oh, what? He might win? What? Like, you know what I mean? They didn't think he was going to win this thing. So I could totally see him going, oh, snap. Like, now we got this free chance or something, right? Like, but at the same time, I guess, I don't know I don't know the big game of all this shit. Is there unlimited plays? Like, do they get that chance to do that? Or do they have, or does that start to create long-term problems? I don't know.
I think they'll pitch other things. I think they'll wait. Glover's right in that they got to battle the pandemic first. They're going to make that a big deal. That'll be the next 2 years.
Oh, well, I guess that kind of depends too on, I guess, how that'll play out. There's no way to know, but I suspect that could just as easily be like, oh, the pandemic, whatever, that was Trump's fault. Now he's gone and there's no pandemic anymore. Yeah, I don't know about that. So again, there's no way to know until we see it play out or what.
When we have to see what the Congress really looks like.
Because the same way that barbecue just said, like they got Biden. Did anybody, would they have picked Harris if they really picked? They didn't they literally pick the one that got kicked out first and that had the least. It's like they literally picked people that they could burn, that they had no interest in having any kind of career, right? But I don't know. But at the same time, there's, she's way younger and better or whatever, and probably listens to orders more. Even though he probably would listen to orders, can he? Is he capable anymore? There's that whole thing. We're getting dangerously close, though, to talking about the garbage that they want us to talk about. So, we'll talk about them here. So we could talk about more of the two-way side of that, or how it deals with gun owners more, but and that's my fault for taking it over there. But we got 11 people out there right now. Like I say, I'll keep dancing for Garrett because he's throwing money on the table. But well, there's no but. If he keeps throwing money out there, I'm gonna keep talking. Y'all are gonna have to. There's 11 people out there, and this ain't supposed to be bleacher seats. You ain't sitting. Did you sit down in an auditorium? Right? Does the room go dark and somebody brought in popcorn or whatever the hell happens nowadays? No, you're sitting there with a computer. You got a keyboard in front of you, you got a microphone, you got a mouse, or you're on the telephone, you got a dial, you got a headset, you got a cord. So use them and be part of the conversation. There's allegedly 10 people out there. One of them booked out of here as soon as I gave you the opportunity or challenged you to use the opportunity to be part of this. But anyway, got barbecue. DJ's still in here if he's awake. Any other topics? Anybody want to hit any of these things more? Or
can we go back to the NFA for a minute?
Did you say repeal the NFA?
Yeah, well, talk about the NFA for a minute. I was talking to one of my good friends, and she's a gun owner, and she was looking at the NFA, and this is one of my former perm repairers, so I adore this lady. As a gun owner, she's like, I'm looking at that thing, and there's no way you're ever going to get machine guns back. The other ones seem reasonable, but as a reasonable human being, machine guns, I'm not in. What do you think? Can we get pieces of the NFA back and not the whole thing?
A lot of first off, little pro tip: the chicks like it if you say darling. So if you start out like darling, and you say it like that, you know what I mean? Like right off, the bat, they know that they're getting the mansplaining, so they can sit there and be ready for it. So you go, darling, and then let's see. So she's saying that machine guns are bad or whatever. So
I get her point was more that America's never going to have any legislation where they're going to allow us to have machine guns again. It's just not going to happen.
right, just like motorcycles or something. I guess it just depends on whatever. I mean, I don't know. I don't think is there a gain? I guess there's probably some way to like do what's the word like a debate tactic or some sort of logic. That's what I'm thinking of. Some sort of a logical progression to get you to the concept of legal machine gun. But you know what I mean? How about this? Because she's an instructor, right? She's a teacher, you said. So she's probably smoked the ganja. Say, well, what about, when you were, she's also, you said she's an older lady. Say, when you were 16, did you think that, I think it's 19 states or something would have recreational marijuana? And then ask what she says, and then go, is there any reason for that? It seems like it could be super dangerous and if she's a teacher, she'll like this part. If you go, I can't think of the window, but if that window, I'm gonna call it the Henderson window because I can't think of the damn name. But if the window was shifted and you were told that marijuana was going to kill you, then you'd never think that it would be acceptable is the word, right? However, you think that machine guns are different and that window hasn't been changed? In 1934, when they were invented, anybody could own them. But because, and again, I guess I'm getting into logic, but because in the 1930s, when there wasn't police radios yet, radios weren't invented and you could get to the county line and you could say, ha ha ha, copper, I got away with it. And your jurisdiction doesn't count here. And you literally just had to run to the county line. And if it was a big enough crime, you ran to the state line. And if it was a bigger crime, you ran to Mexico. And you could literally run across a border, a physical line in the sand, and it was a wily coyote or whatever, and they would have to let you go. So in those days, and there was no, well, pretty soon we're going to have police radios and this isn't going to be an issue anymore. There wasn't like, oh, pretty soon we'll have an FBI and this won't be an issue. Instead, there was a bunch of media, and they had just got done chatting up how big a deal cowboys were because that sold dime novels, and now the cowboys weren't a thing so much anymore. But now there's these gangsters, and we can sell dime novels talking about how gangsters are. And there was the machine gun murder in Chicago that made all the news, and that sold papers. So, now there's this like craze going around where they hyped up the idea that World War I guns are going into the hands of mobsters. So you're going to tell me that
KG?
you're going to, so I'm saying like you're going to start with that lady, like, so marijuana, 19 states, it's recreationally legal. When you were a youngin', it was you smoke one reefer cigarette and you're going to get killed and raped and murdered and probably jump off a roof in the process. So somewhere they changed the Overton window. So why do you tell me that machine guns are bad and that they can't ever not be bad because of perception? So, or go into one of Walt's things with causality, but that would be a different direction. But I guess I got into it anyway, but I would say something like that. Like, what about marijuana? How come that has no value to society yet? It's now being challenged. The societal norm there's being challenged from the down up when no state said, ding, like we deem it okay now. We've decided it's okay for you. So I don't know if any of that would actually work to this lady.
Yeah, I mean, I like all that. I'm totally going to use it. I'm going to say exactly what you said. But I think her point was also that there was more reasonable parts of the legislation that America would vote for, like the Hearing Protection Act.
Yeah, that's fine. But
like we don't say, like the bunnies won't be scared when we shoot in the forest when we're hunting. And then they're like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm pro bunnies.
Yeah, we don't need people to vote for anything. We just need people to quit being scared of stuff that there's no reason to be scared of. So full auto just means 2 bullets going off at the same time. So, I mean, she's not a shooter, but ask her, like, if you were playing baseball and they made a different baseball bat where you could play with 2 balls at the same time, and that made it a different game, or I don't know, 2 darts at the same time. Like, you can't see an iteration of a development or an evolution of a game where something might come up, like the definition of full auto, just because when someone says full auto and you think of a belt-fed, tripod-mounted machine gun from World War II with a cooling hose coming off of it and like 4 crew running the thing, shooting across the fucking wasteland, or you think of a heavy bomber with like 6 different dudes shooting belt-fed, dual-mounted, swivel, pivoted, belly freaking, what are they called? Pods. Like, so what? Like, that doesn't mean nothing. It could be a little girl shooting 222 rounds at a steel target. It could be a million other things that you're just too, unaware of the topic to think about. So that's like saying red convertibles are okay, but blue convertibles aren't okay because in 1942, a thing happened with a red convertible. But now today, you can't make blue convertibles. It's I don't know if I'm coming up with great examples,
Yeah,
but
that makes sense.
to try to explain to her that, like, just because you aren't aware of something and the Overton window is shifted, that you can confidently say that I can't, or that the things can't develop. Like, F you, lady. Like, what else are you manipulated about? And what else do you just regurgitate? And then if she gets all mad, push her. And then, like I say, darling, a lot of darlings.
She'd cut me.
Let's see. Did I get another $5? Holy crap. Making all the money. For senoritas to be reelected, they will have to cater to an afraid base and push Supreme Court cases or risk losing their seats. I don't know what to tell you here. I live in a blue state now. I've got Senorita Marco Calito. He's a douchebaggio. So he's going to be super anti-gun. And it's getting racist here. So he's going to be super anti-gun and douchebag. So I don't know what it's like in states where you can push your senators around. I don't think we're going to be able to push that guy around. Because what's happening in Arizona is all the old people that were crotchety and knew stuff from the old days, they're dying because of the COVID. Or, I mean, old age, but, it's going to go down as COVID because of government funding or whatever. So you said Oregon, kinda, it's not illegal first time if you go to rehab? What is that all about?
It's older than we're not supposed to talk about things on
That's
the
not the best meme ever. So this, it's a girl sitting there at the, like, being in a restaurant, and then the waiter comes over, and she goes, oh yeah, she goes, I'll have a Pepsi. And the guy goes, we have Coke. And she goes, I'll take a gram of that and a Pepsi.
Well, as somebody who lived in Portland, I can tell you that the heroin and meth were never really that illegal there. They just
even here in very, very red and very, very conservative Nebraska, first offense, you can take a thing called diversion and then apply to appeal to have it expunged after 2 years. So for anything other than personal amounts, you're gonna get it. But if it's personal use, small quantity, and not hardcore, then you can take some classes and get a buy for the events.
Another good one is that there's the meme where you got the, I think I want to say Castro, but it isn't. It's some drug lord from some movie, right? About drug lords in South America. And I think there's a part in it where he's bored or something, and he's sitting on a swing. Anyway, so they take these like pictures of this drug lord who's all bored, and they put them together, and then they turn it into a meme or whatever. And it's that one, or it's those pictures, and then the meme says something like Oregon drug enforcement agents. They're all bored. Anyhow,
But
so
things
basically, I like the idea that it's. Oh, go ahead.
the media totally conflated it. I've seen a bunch of stories like all drugs are legal in Oregon. No, it's not true.
Well, it's a closest thing
Drugs
to
are
that.
now not illegal, and if you get caught with them, you have to pay $100 fine. And you have to go to rehab.
All right, it's the closest thing to that has ever happened. And what I'm digging is that it's pushing the end of the war on drugs, or at least it's probing what it would be like to have the end of the war on drugs, meaning non-criminalized, or what's it called? Non-criminalized rehabilitation.
Decriminalized.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of that idea. I'd like to congratulate drugs for winning the war on drugs.
Yep, I've got that meme in about 6 different forms.
So I don't know. There's this lawyer who was posting stuff about the marijuana stuff that was happening here in Arizona, and I asked him because it was like there was what am I trying to say? There was hallucinogens on the ballot in 2 or 3 states this time, and it's not the first time; it's happened before. So I was asking him if he thinks that's an indication that the war on drugs could be ended. I just think that's neat because I think that's one that's not beneficial for anything in the long run. I mean, I'm not saying that drugs are good. I'm saying that there's rehabilitation, that if you look at it the health way instead of the crime way, that I think we've never been able to do it that way. So at least it's a difference, but I really think it would be more of a better route to take as far as our resources go. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to that being a thing. So I don't know if that's it has to weave into guns somewhere. I've never even thought about trying to map it out where it might have parallels or whatever, and where they might even touch, because there's probably places where they touch if you start thinking about it, right? At least on the 4473 is, I guess, the first thing I'm thinking about. If they change the laws in enough states, or I don't even know how that works, to change or affect things federally, what would that be like?
If they federally legalize marijuana, it's got to come off the form, right?
Yep.
That's what I mean, yeah. If they change something where.
See, I think that's the kind of thing they're going to go for. They're not going to go after guns. They're going to go for like legalizing weed.
Did anyone ever bring that up as a platform, though?
Yeah, Harris did.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that part.
Well,
That's right,
California.
because then they called her out by saying that she's two-faced because of blah blah blah, because she was also persecuting people for it. So yeah, that's right. I remember.
And then you take anybody that's got a marijuana conviction, you set them free, and you expunge your records. Because I mean, it is kind of silly in my opinion. I live in Washington, where people are in jail for marijuana, but I can drive about 3 blocks and buy marijuana.
Well,
My brother died in San Francisco County Jail, having been arrested in Golden Gate Park for possession with intent to distribute. And what he had done was hanging out and go on the hate in San Francisco, ran into another Omaha person who was just out there. They went to the park to smoke, and undercovers popped him, and he did not last in county jail.
Wow.
Yeah, so my brother's death, I believe, was directly caused by those officers deciding not to overlook what they commonly would do. Yeah, greatest loss of my life. Well, I didn't mean to stall out the conversation. Jeez, that was in Cali, guys. California, San Francisco, epicenter of Owsley, all the acid, manufacturers and developers, marijuana from time immemorial, very nearly. And, G finds himself. See, when we were talking about hallucinogens on the ballot, I'm not cool with LSD necessarily, but I am cool with all natural forms. We don't have to go to South America to experience ayahuasca. G's in the land of peyote, and I'm in the land of cow patties. So if you want hallucinogens, they're available. You do not move.
I mean, I have them in my yard.
Yeah, they're different though. When
They're
you talk
literally in my yard.
they're different though. When you're talking about stuff that has a dose of tiny little amounts that can do all kinds of craziness to people, the idea of having something that can be made consistently in a laboratory for therapeutic stuff, there's a difference between that and what might come out of a mushroom or a cactus. When you're talking about medicine, they're going to take whatever's coming out of a mushroom or a cactus and distill it into its elements anyway, and then give people a pill or a drop of the element there, so it can be dosed. But they're not gonna. I mean, whatever. I'm talking like some scientists or whatever when they're trying to do stuff,
Right.
Therapeutically or what. But anyway, that's all I'm saying is I don't want to tell some therapist how to do it. I just know that whenever I used to do research in it, like depends on what you're doing, but there's times when like they'll just put massive amounts of stuff into somebody who's having a seizure, let's say, and that's something that, again, you just can't do that with a piece of corn. You got to have corn syrup.
Right. And I'm, as far as therapeutic doses of certain drugs, why in the hell do we have such a problem with MDMA? Now, that was shown in the 70s, during doing hardcore research, peer review publications, the whole gamut regarding all kinds of assistance it could provide to patients and others. From couples having intimacy issues, not just physical, but emotional and mental as well, depression, all kinds of stuff. We would, MDMA is a lot in regulated dosage is a lot more effective than almost any of the others. And I know I've strayed from psychedelics, but you can have, out of body or heightened body experiences on MDMA. And if everybody just needs to pop a roller and, realize that we are sensual beings, then I'm all for that.
Wasn't some of the stuff on the ballot about therapeutic mushrooms?
Ooh.
It's been shown pretty good for like PTSD. They take a microdose, talk to like a psychologist about some of the shit they've gone through, and it just gets people to get to that shitty thing that they need to deal with a lot faster.
Yeah. Certainly faster than just talk therapy.
So Enrique is saying people going to 2A states or 2A crosses, 2A across the states need to become. Is that supposed to be across the states need to become really good friends with the U.S. senators, or 2A? Maybe 2A folks across the states need to become really good friends with the Senate this year. People are going to gravitate to the same interests and ideas and beliefs, left or right. Been around lefties long enough to know they always look for the one guy that knows everything. I see what you're saying. People are going to gravitate to the same interests and ideas on the left or the right.
I could buy that.
I suppose.
His second statement is
People
true.
Back in the day, people got presented a thing once in a while, and it was like, oh, I can get presented this, and okay, I'll buy it. Like patent medicine, somebody would come into town and be like, hey, I got a cure-all. It's like, oh shit, you got a cure-all? Let me buy that. Right? Like, and then at some point it's like, oh, I've seen enough of that, or there's enough people that come through town claiming that I don't think you're all correct, right? Like you've got some reference, right? So people are going to gravitate to some or to the same interests and ideas, perhaps, but it's not like we have just the one, guy dancing with this idea and the one guy dancing with that idea. Obviously, in a national election, it gets to perceive that way. But I guess what I'm getting at is that when you've got a whole bunch of people dancing and a whole bunch of people watching people dance, and then in an environment where anybody can say, I've just watched 6 people dance, now I'm going to dance my way. And then a whole bunch of people might change or start watching that person, right? Like we've got a lot of stuff going on. I think that lends itself to be like, if you take a big enough view, you can see that of all the stuff going on, it tends to be this way or that way. But I think we're moving more and more away from one person being able to dictate, or even one group being able to dictate what the left and what the right are, right? So I think that what we're going to end up with is just a whole bunch of people doing a whole bunch of different things, and even more people doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So it's not like there's just people doing this or just people doing that, right? Then a few people in the middle. I think we're going to have a whole bunch of options, and then a whole bunch of people choosing a whole bunch of different options randomly. And because of that, we're just going to end up with something that, you know, again, from a distance can be perceived as there's a lot of stuff doing this and a lot of stuff doing that. But I think it's going to be more and more difficult to say there's this many people doing this or there's this many people doing that, because you know, somebody might be eating ice cream and flying on a roller coaster and wearing a blue shirt, but you can't say all people that wear blue shirts eat ice cream, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's just going to be extremely difficult. We're going to have systems that allow us to start differentiating, like that guy's also wearing blue shoes, but the same person who's doing all three things is wearing white shoes. You know, like we're going to be able to start determining all these different things, but all that data is just going to confirm that we all just decide to do what we want. And I don't know, I'm maybe not getting too deep in that, but I just want to throw out there that I just don't think I don't think we're heading towards one person saying this and the alternative other person saying that, and then everybody just ganging around those two sides. Or am I wrong? Do you guys see that still being a thing no matter how many voices are out there?
I think we have to reach saturation. And then people, you know, from all media sources, all, you know, aspects, and then it's just, you can't ignore it at that point.
What do you mean we? You said we have to reach saturation. What do you mean by we, and what do you mean saturation?
Those who are politically conscious and those who are practicing members of our society.
And then saturation with what? Like all the different opinions?
No, the prevailing opinion. If we reach a tipping point, which should be about another 15 to 20 states, states are going to have to, some states are going to become absolute pariahs because they aren't allowing things like, say, for medical use instead of just personal use. But, you know, prohibition, you know, the Volstead Act, prohibition, the repeal of prohibition, we've gone through this before. It's been part of the popular consciousness, and we don't need crusaders in the same style as those who were, you know, what was her name? Hatchet, whatever, you know, not Corrie ten Boom. I can't remember you know, the woman who led religious crusades against alcohol and would smash barrels of whiskey and beer and shit. You know, that kind of guerrilla action. No one was going to, you know, stop a woman with a hatchet, and they were just going to watch their, you know, their liquor run out on the floor. Well, you know, Woods is up there in, you know, north of the Triangle, and so all of those states are involved in marijuana culture. And if that became that would be the state's leading industry, for God's sake, if it wasn't illegal. And to have that state gravitate from the southern states where they're getting diverted water and everything else to the northern parts of the states and Oregon and Washington, capping it off before we hit the Canadian border, then there would be a huge boom for them. And that will pass on the savings to all of us.
What's funny, we've had legalized weed for several years now, and apparently it was supposed to, a bunch of the money was supposed to go fund all the schools. So far, I haven't seen a nickel of it yet, so I'll keep you posted.
Right on.
Well, usually I think they say that they turn on all the systems and create all the infrastructure, and then the taxes pay for the creation of it all. And then once the engines are running, then the profits are directed towards schools, but they have to be built first, right? And I thought that's how anything gets funded whenever something is designed to be a new tax, that they use the taxes to build the infrastructure first, like CCWs or something. Like they start paying or using the fees to create the the employees or whatever.
Well, for states where it's legal already, industry from several different corners are converging on all the states so that they can be the first mega growers. It's nothing to set up, a steel warehouse and start indoor, and go, horticultural gangbusters on stuff. Colorado and I think the way Colorado's dealing with it is a lot of the way that they deal with dispensaries. And that is that licenses will be granted to manufacturers, but they're only going to grant so many per state and limit their export. So all of the dispensaries that are all over the place in Colorado are going to be sourcing from industry from commercial industry instead of cottage industry, where like in California, Oregon, Washington, and a few other states, not everybody has to grow their own. Not everybody has to go to a dispensary. You can contract with another licensed grower to grow your quantity of plants. Yield is not a factor, and so you've got one farmer as part of a greater cooperative. Now that, I think, is the way to
work way different than that.
I'm sorry.
Washington state rules are very different than that.
Oh, okay. Fill me in.
They have to record it by weight, and like there's only certain distributions in certain places have that license, but they have to know where all the weed went from seed to store. It has to be secured at every time, and there's a whole bunch of checkpoints along the way.
Okay.
So none of we used to be the Liquor Control Board, but now it's the Liquor Control and Marijuana Board. And
no.
go in and check, and they check and make sure that this batch went to there and is where it's supposed to end up. So nobody's growing any weed on the side, because if you're growing weed that goes to a dispensary, you have to grow in a specific amount, and if they catch you around any more than that, there's going to be issues.
Okay. Well, that government interaction with that, I was not of legal age, of course, and it is no longer the law, but I grew up in Southwest Iowa, and on Main Street, we had a state liquor store. All of the liquor stores in Iowa used to be state run.
Yeah, here too.
And yeah, okay. So I do have a little bit of understanding of that, but it being gone for decades and decades now, I'm not sure how it would have played out.
Well, how long is it going to be until Marlboro and RJ Reynolds get involved in this?
Yeah. Oh God, don't bring up those talkers.
So that's capitalism, but we started this whole thing, I think, with the concept of getting rid of the war on drugs. So when you get rid of the war on drugs, that makes that property legal, and this is capitalism. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so I guess that at this point, what you've got is a national level prohibition on any use of the plant or whatever because of the status of it or whatever. And because of that, you got all these different states just doing whatever they're going to do because they know that whatever they're doing is, not kosher with federal law. So there's no consistency, or if there is, I don't know, in a doubt there is, right? Everybody's doing their own thing. So anyway, the way that the companies are dealing with it has to be dictated by the way the states are dealing with it. And like I say, that's not a way. So whenever they remove the federal stuff, you're either going to get a lack of, and then you'll have an open playing field perhaps, because the states that don't have anything will have to do something, right? Or they'll just ignore it, I guess. Maybe they can pull a Vermont And then the states that have it now will probably reorganize, right? Because it will be different if the federal level is different. So anyway, I don't know what I'm even saying other than whatever we're dealing with now is a situation that is a result of a whole bunch of stuff. But anyway, getting into the details of it is here nor there. I'm just, I guess, saying that we started this whole thing with the idea of getting rid of the whole war on drugs and stuff. And that just seems interesting because right now our war on drugs is creating, well, I guess some amount of our society is based on it, but it's creating an element or what's the word? Like there's a core direction or something where we've got a whole bunch of people in jail, and because of this whole thing. So the pursuit of having a good time on a weekend or whatever the hell drugs are for, relaxing or therapy or whatever, the supply of that is this whole criminal thing. So like, I mean, holy moly, like we've had criminal or drug dealers as the enemies in our culture for a long, long time. And because it's a what is it, like a non-gender, non-race, all the other things that you can pick on, it's like not a thing that a drug dealer is just it's a choice. So it's an occupation. Like you can pick on a drug dealer in the social setting. So I don't know what they'd pick on next, right? Because at this point, because they're illegal at a federal level, like they're the ultimate villain, right? So that's just one little element of it. And then you get like what would happen when all doctors have that resource available to them. Obviously not every doctor is going to use it, but who knows what's going to happen in like dentistry, or obviously therapy's got its potential, but I don't even know, like plastic surgery. What if they figure out if you jam a joint into your lip, like you don't need plastic surgery? I don't know, like some weird stuff's going to happen when it's out there. And then all that money, like think about all the money. Like what are cops going to be like when that's not a focus of their thing? They're not worried about what you're doing. So now they're not interacting, like this whole thing about,
What about like guns and drugs?
yeah, seriously, like if they're not out dealing with stuff, if people aren't threatening and fighting over drugs, and this
Yeah,
gun crime that happens in just 5 counties, that goes away. Like
yeah.
the war on drugs is a thing that feeds this perception that we have a violent country. So anyway, I'm just thinking like that's got significance to it. And that's on top of that. That's not even counting the money. Because there's all kinds of people that are naysayers and don't want to see things change or have a real bad opinions about, or real, not bad, but real solid, real core opinions about legalization or decriminalization or whatever you want to call it, or rescheduling. But yeah, the amount of money and stuff that's going to be out there. And then the thing that I'm personally the most interested in, and I barely pay attention because none of them, they all seem to be worried about medically smoking it, recreationally smoking it, and that's it. Because I'm most interested in the other side of that plant, the stem of it, the hemp. That was a massive, massive element in what do you call, like the evolution of society, not just humans, but the way that we interact with each other, the same way that wheat and corn, maybe, fishing, like it was a core thing. It's such a strong material. It grows literally a weed, right? It grows strong in a different way. It's like bamboo. The difference between bamboo and trees, right? Over here we had hardwood trees because our mountains go north and south. So when the ice age came in, right, our trees could run south. They could run away from the ice age. In other continents, the mountains go east and west. So when the ice age come and the snow creeps down, trees can't climb up a hill because that takes you up into a different level of temperature. So trees can't grow away from the frost cycles of ice ages. So in other countries, they don't have hardwood trees like we've got here. So we use wood in a whole different way because it's a natural resource that's almost unending here. Let's live in Canada where they only have 5% of their old hardwoods. In the United States, where we have the horrible federal government, which created wildlife or wilderness areas, we've got more of our natural hardwoods or forests than any other country, as far as I know. But anyway, other countries just didn't ever had a chance. Like the whole world literally is working against them. They never had hardwoods. We have all kinds of stuff. We have pecans and shit because of all that. We don't even think of bamboo, right? We don't think of hemp anymore since the whatever days of DuPont and shit said, oh, we're going to make it out of petroleum and we're going to make our cables and our twines and our shit out of petroleum instead. So let's make that evil shit that the fuckers smoke illegal, right? Let's make that horrible. So we don't even know what it's like to have renewable resource out of a plant that comes up out of the ground every 3 months without depleting the soil, requiring massive amounts of water, you know, taking up massive amount of real estate like our forests do, our deciduous forests. We don't know what it's like to have bamboo and to work with bamboo. When you have bamboo instead of hardwoods, you have a culture like they have in Asia. We have different cultures when you have different types of materials. And that was a material that's been taken from us. And I see that as a strategic resource that that's fascism and fucking socialism together took from us. And as individuals, we should fucking have that back. When you can grow something in your backyard that can make your own cord, that can make a roof, that can make your clothing, I guess you can eat it, right?
Paper.
Yeah, the whole what that Hearst that.
And you can literally keep growing it every 3 months. You could have it in the, you know, the shittiest places, and it's just like a goat. It just grows. It might not grow as good, but half the time it grows better when you neglect it. And I'm talking not the marijuana part. I'm talking that stem, that meaty stem of fucking fibers. They can take that stuff and do something with it and turn it into carbon nanofibers. It's going to be a freaking miracle shit. That's what I want to see, and that's why I suspect one of the reasons they keep it away is because they don't keep it off limits as a scheduled item, is because they're scared of what's going to happen when we don't have to have bullshit we have with our hands tied with some of the other natural, you know, non-renewable, less renewable resources out there. I went to school.
Has anybody else seen the short form documentary produced by the Department of the Interior or Agriculture, Hemp for Victory?
You're talking like from the 40s or whatever?
Yep.
Nowadays, it's probably all over the internet. I seen it back when it was I seen it on actual film back in the days before it was even available on VHS very much.
Yep, me too. And I didn't realize that it was that diverse, used that diversely. But the defense industry in particular helped to promote that. And another thing we need to remember, I always say paper, because we don't have papyrus. We could do the bamboo, but hemp, as you have described several times now, is an incredible renewable resource. Weed is a weed. It will grow anywhere that it can. And those former hemp fields here in the Midwest, they might be growing row crops instead now. The ditches and the tribute waterways are choked with the stuff.
Not always, definitely. And you can throw it in to replenish too. That's the other thing. It's a good, or it's a one that you can use in between, so you don't have to, or you can have options with it and shit. So anyway, that's what I'm really looking forward to, is a potential for a national rescheduling so that the states can calm down, and then you get something like, I don't know. I mean, it's been a while. I'm all rusty on that shit, but you get one of them states, like you're saying, that's wasting their time on some dumb crop, and you start getting a little bit of that coming out, and who knows, what it's like when cotton isn't the only name in town.
Well, we're going to have to wean ourselves off of, because of the limited supply and the expense of petroleum-based products. Nylon ropes and that shit, they're going to be gone. Sisal rope is still available with tons of natural fiber. I'm going to refer back to what I used to know at my peak in the 90s. And that was, I worked in a head shop, and hemp jewelry was huge. And people would come in. Well, we sent a lot of money north of the border to get it from Canada, because there were plenty of Canadian producers. There were no domestic producers of the stuff. So it was outrageously expensive.
I got eBay lot one time, a whole bunch of different hemps, like different thicknesses of the natural color. It's just sort of a brown color, I guess,
Yeah.
naturally. But then a whole bunch of different ones in different colors because they would braid them into whatever bracelets and necklaces and shit. But somebody was like, got sick of it or went out of business or something. So I got like a big box of all these different ones, super cheap, because it's definitely, I mean, it's whatever. It's just a string like any other string. It's just that because it's super strong, it starts out all crappy, and then when it gets soft or whatever, like cotton, it just lasts way longer than cotton. So you make a shirt out of it. At first, it's kind of itchy like wool, and then it turns into cotton, and then it just lasts longer than cotton. But the string, just as string, is like, I don't know, easily 5 times, but can probably be up to 10 times stronger than like whatever the white braided crap you buy at a hardware store that's like less than clothesline, but for like baling up twigs, just something you're going to throw away, like basically dispose of the twig. It's like that. It's like the difference between a latex glove and a rubber glove, right? Like, or the nitrile glove and a latex glove. It's like basically the same. It looks the same weight and shape and characteristics. It's just that many times stronger. Not super strong. It's not like Spider-Man twine or nothing, but it's not like nylon, I guess, but it's about halfway to nylon, and it's something that just grows, and they just have to knock it down whenever it grows. I don't know. I've never actually seen it. I've just heard about it. So it's, it grows, I imagine, to some distance where it's smaller than a tree, something like a corn stalk, I guess. They knock it over, they beat the crap out of it. And then when you beat the crap out of it, it just breaks up. It's like celery. So it's like old dried up celery, and it just kind of falls apart. And then they just pick all that up and they start braiding it. So it's out as easy as shit to do. Like hippies can do it when they're sitting around. So they can do that with machines and stuff. And they came up with those machines a long time ago. And it's the same as any other twine. It's just that, and then the other thing you said about nylon, from what I understand, fracking oil that they pull up from fracking is like the perfect stuff for plastic. So I don't think we're ever going to run out of plastics. And I don't want to stop making plastic. I just want our plastic to go towards like computers and, I don't know, thermoses or something that you can't use a natural resource for. I'm just sick of our plastics because we act like we're never going to use the rest of them up, being used for dumb shit that we could easily be using a piece of grown material for, because a grown material falls apart into dirt and it's perfect. Okay, you use it as a bag or use it as a wrapper or a container, and then it falls apart into dirt, versus you make it into a container and it never falls apart. Sometimes you want that. That's when you want to use plastic. But for all that other dumb shit, just start using something that falls apart and you're good to go again. So that's my main thing. Strategy-wise, we need to be smarter than China. We don't want to fight with China. We want to step out of the way and let China run off the cliff.
Yep. I'm totally with you on those.
Anyway, so we only talk about guns. We've been talking about guns for the last little bit here. There's only 7 people listening. We hit the 3-hour mark. Barbecue's asleep. He's been asleep for about an hour and a half, 2 hours already. We ran
No way. I'm totally 2-way today.
Oh, so he's still awake. It's like 2-way awake. There's that one channel out there, 2-way woke or whatever. Oh, that's what you are. You're 2-way woke. I thought he was asleep, but he's 2-way woke. So anyway, Woods was in here. He ran out of 2-way energy. He's 2-way sleeping. Honda was in here. That never happens. He's sleeping. He fell asleep because he's sick. Garrett basically bought me lunch all next week. Thanks for that. And I don't really eat lunch, so basically fed me all week. So that's awesome. Pants is out there. Putting on pants, I guess. And whoever Jeff was, thanks for throwing out some points. Got Clover all going until his meds kicked in. His
Lucky dog. Yeah, that's a good one.
bacon. Let's see, anybody else out there? Tim Allen was here, and he bought something from the store today. Thank you for that. And Ozzy was out there making a holster. That's when we made Ozzy quit working, come over, and type on the thing. Also, R4 was out there earlier with that logo that I think looks like an Air Force, maybe NASA, because I've seen some weather shit with NASA that almost looks like that too. And then G23 actually was in here earlier, and tomorrow he's got Chris Chang on. So Chris Chang, the guy who won episode 4 of Top Shot, season 4 of Top Shot is going to be on G23 tomorrow in the evening, so Saturday evening. So let's see. Tomorrow I'll start out with Caliber Corner, and then Rick's Life as I See It, and then that show, and then is there other shows? I don't know. And then Gizzard does his show on Sunday, and then Locked and Loaded does their show on Sunday. That's literally the best live show you're going to see all week. For QA at least. All right. And then I guess I'm yawning, so we're ending. So thanks for jumping in to barbecue and to DJ and to all the rest of the people that were in here. And back to wake you up later. Oh wait, did you guys want to plug anything?
Actually, yeah, real quick. Earlier I said, even if we could retain, 10% of that, 7 million, which would be awesome. And I said, even if they reached out to one person, I wasn't thinking of one vital thing though, is a lot of them, like mentioned before, they have families. So even if that one person that bought that firearm, we retain them, well, there's a chance that they're reaching at least 2 or 3 other people immediately because, they have husbands, wives, and children in that household. So, if you know a new gun owner or something, just kind of get in their ear and say, hey, this is important stuff.
Yeah, and you make good points there. And your gun education with your children is completely appropriate, and I think sets a good example to any of the folks that you run into. Protecting home, hearth, kith, and kin is something that we should all be concerned with. And if it's Eddie Eagle or your mom and dad or grandpa or whomever, sit tight and listen keenly, because they can drop serious science on your ass. And with the respect that should be commanded, I think the messages will make it through. I certainly hope so. So, yeah, to all of us who continue to protect and defend not only our rights, but each other and the free practice thereof, good on you, and keep up the good fight.
No, thanks, guys. Be back to pick up later.